All right, guys, looking at the action behind La Berge here with the wind whipping around a lot stronger back there. They're not protected. They're getting pretty much the straight winds there, which have gusted over 50 miles per hour here in Lake Charles. We've had a 70 mile per hour gust down in the Calcasieu waterway there that I just heard about, and also some incredibly strong office words now from the sheriff's office in Vermilion Parish. Listen to this, and I quote, "For those that didn't evacuate, write your name, address, social security number, and next of kin, put it in a Ziploc bag, and put it in your pocket." End quote. That's a pretty strong statement right there, because that means they will, more than likely, they will not have the capacity to come after you if the water is high. So that's what their fear is, and that's why emergency managers and weather service folks and hurricane center folks work so hard on these forecasts to get you out of harm's way. And remember, we reported earlier in Cameron Parish that 150 people decided to stay behind for this. So, there's a lot of people still out there in where we are forecasting 10 to 20 feet of water, waves and wind on top of that. And this isn't going to be like Rita, because as Dr. Knapp talked about, the winds are a lot stronger here. We're talking about 150 mile per hour winds. This thing's coming in as a bona fide Cat 4, strongest hurricane ever in southwest Louisiana. Why would you ever want to stay through that? We've gotten good at this stuff, guys, and we're not just telling you to hear ourselves talk. All right, again, kind of keeping an eye out here in front of La Berge. You kind of look out into the parking lot. We're getting a little bit of a break from the wind, and it's kind of easy to predict what is going to happen every time we get a heavier rain squall. The winds are going to be gustier. So a lot of that rain actually transports down some of the stronger winds aloft, and they're real strong aloft, especially offshore, Steph. Looking at the eyewall on radar, looking at about 5,500 feet up now, we got 140 mile per hour winds. Now, those don't always get down to the surface, but sometimes 80% or 90% of those winds do, and that's certainly enough to cause intense structural damage.
Absolutely, and that on top of the surge as well. And Jim, I want to talk about the rarity. You mentioned this becoming Category 4. We've never had a Category 4 landfall in this portion of Louisiana. And in fact, we've only had 3 known Category 4s to make landfall in Louisiana, 2 in 1800 and 1 in 1965, and none of those were anywhere near this area. So this is a very rare occurrence. Now, what's going to happen as we go through the next hours? That's what everyone wants to know as we're watching this. Look how gusty it is. We are not shielded at all. This is the Calcasieu River right behind me. You see that water is going to come up. We're watching it very closely, and we are going to be able to get to higher ground very quickly. I'm about 30 miles as a crow flies to the Gulf of Mexico, and Laura will be the record 7th named storm to make landfall actually here in the continental U.S. before the end of August. That is a record. We've had 6 named storms. Let me look at my numbers here. I want to get them right. 1886 and 1916. There were 6 named storms that made landfall before the end of August. This will be our 7th. So it is a record-setting season. It is a record-setting storm. And unfortunately, that means a lot of destruction for people here into southwestern Louisiana. But Jim, it's not just at the coast. And I really want to emphasize this. Obviously, that's where we'll see the most destruction. But people that live in the parishes in northern Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, as this continues to go in, it takes time for these to wind down, and it will still have tropical storm force winds. It will be taking out power for people.
Yeah, it's a great point. We haven't talked about that because we've been focusing a little bit on Lake Charles, and certainly our amazement with the kind of inundation that's forecast here, and the height of the river, going almost twice as high as the record, which is just amazing when you think about that. So that just puts the inundation into a whole different perspective here and category. But yeah, Steph's exactly right. That's why the hurricane warnings go so far inland. And another thing too, Steph, is there are phenomenal amounts of cattle in these lower parishes of Louisiana.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there was no way to get them out. So we're going to lose a lot of cattle. There is a phenomenal amount of timber in this exact region that we've often referred to on the Weather Channel, the East Texas piney woods. Well, that kind of extends into Louisiana. There's a phenomenal amount of timber up in this area, so we're going to see tremendous loss in timber for the state all the way up into Shreveport, Bossier City. I mean, even the fact that we could get a Category 1 hurricane moving close to Shreveport with some semblance of a circulation center still left is just amazing to me. And then we got to push this across Arkansas, into Tennessee, Kentucky, southern Appalachia, central Appalachia, and the mid-Atlantic with a little injection from the mid-latitude jet stream where we could still see winds that could produce power outages. No question we have the chance to have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, without power before this is all said and done, and it won't be far away from the coast. So, Steph, again, it's interesting where I am. I just want to give folks a perspective of this. I'm a little protected, certainly at the moment, on this side of L'Auberge, but you're open to the river back there, so you're getting whatever the atmosphere is bringing us right now.
Exactly. So I'm wide open now. This is looking awful. So the sun rose over here, so that's east. This is kind of northeast, and then, everything is blowing from basically east-northeast towards the west right now, and our winds are going to shift, and that will make a huge difference. When the storm is coming around, the winds will be going in one direction, then you get a different eye wall, and they're going to be shooting off in another direction, and that means the debris will start flying in different directions. We're going to talk more about those threats hour by hour. Your neighborhood, what should you expect? We have it all right here on the Weather Channel with live coverage.
All right, guys, just got word that we are now under an extreme wind warning. And this, of course, is something that they reserve for the eye wall, in parts of the eye wall. And we're going to be under this for a while because the worst is still offshore, but we're going to get more and more wind. Winds are going to be gusting even stronger. So a large chunk of, I would imagine, southern Louisiana all the way to the coast under this extreme wind warning, which is kind of like the look. You're not going anywhere. Shelter in place. You're going to lose power. You may lose cell service. That's essentially what that is telling you right there. And that is what's going on, certainly for many, over the next 2 to 4 hours in this region here up in Lake Charles. Now, what's interesting, you're like, Jim, what high wind warning? You're not standing in any kind of high wind at all. No, because we position ourselves in the front to deal with the eye wall later on. All right? So we're protected with a northeast wind right now. But let me take you to the back of L'Auberge. And this is what Charles Peak's got. This is literally right around the back where we were this morning for AMHQ. And you can see, and this is where Steph is right now. She's at the Golden Nugget. I'm here at L'Auberge. But this is the kind of weather they're getting as they're exposed to nothing blocking them. They don't have a big, fortress resort out through here to block any of the wind. So they're getting hammered. And believe me, it's going to get a heck of a lot worse before it gets better. So, Steph, I want to talk about that. You are going to move out of that area as the water comes in, because we are expecting about 10 to 12 feet of water rise, even back there on the river. Tell us your plan. Is this something where you get to go, because you can't walk outside when this thing is ramming, you're going to go through the hotel and get up toward the front? Is that the thinking?
Okay. Right, so let me show you. This is the Calcasieu River behind me. It hasn't really come up. I can see some white caps, which obviously we didn't see earlier. And, the water is coming up, but nothing that is too dramatic right now. But it will. It's just a matter of time. And we'll talk to Dr. Nab about the timing of when that water will rise up, because I'm about 30 miles to the Gulf of Mexico as the crow flies. Calcasieu River, there's all sorts of rivers and lakes and whatnot that drain out, and that's going to be part of the problem, is the rain coming down, 12, 15, 18 inches of rain coming down. That wants to wash out to the Gulf of Mexico, but the Gulf of Mexico is going to be washing in. So what we've done here is on the back of our hotel, which is an enormous structure. It is enormous, 20-something floors. It is huge, it is massive, it is sturdy. Where we are, there's actually, about 10 steps up to where my crew is. They are safe. In fact, they're very dry. And in between commercial breaks, I go up there, there's basically no wind. So we found this little nook that we could stay in. And as long as we can broadcast live, we could actually probably be in that nook with the eye wall if we can get a signal out, because it is very protected. When the water comes out, up, and obviously I'm watching it closely. We have a huge crew here. Everyone's watching it. We will immediately go up these stairs and get to higher ground. So we are very safe and very well protected. For those of you at home who are watching us and are concerned about that water rise, I want to bring in Dr. Nab to talk more about that. Dr. Nab, when can we anticipate? Listen, hours ago, I saw it was already overwashing, along the Gulf Coast. But how about for us, where we're the 30-ish miles inland? When can we expect that water to start rising?
Well, it will start rising gradually in the next hour or two, but the real significant rise is in the 3 to 4 hour time frame from now, because it's about 4 hours from now when the center of circulation makes its closest pass to Lake Charles, maybe just to the west of there. So maybe 3 hours from now, you really see it noticeable. It maybe maximizes 4 to 5 hours from now. And then that's all headed into high tide. So the timing is this. We've got the center of circulation that's about 2 hours off the coast. Now, in between the center and the coast is the northern eyewall, and that is within an hour from coming on shore. So, Steph, that's why with about an hour's notice, they issued this extreme wind warning for the eyewall to come ashore within the next hour. And then that northern eyewall is maybe 2.5 to 3 hours away from Lake Charles. So you got a lot to deal with, and it's going to be getting worse and worse here in the next couple of hours.
Okay, Dr. Knabb, let's talk about some of these cities, these specific cities. You know, as you're watching this position, and I know they can wobble, and this is something we will have to watch very closely because a little shift this way or that way will make a huge difference in what happens to someone's property. But what are some of the cities that could sit in the eye wall or experience any part of the eye wall with this system as it pulls ashore?
Well, certainly on the northern side, that northern eye wall, Cameron and Holly Beach are going to get the northern eye wall. That is within the hour, and they're the first in line there that's in the extreme wind warning. Now, with the center of circulation still going north-northwestward, it probably is going to pass just west of Lake Charles. So it could work out, unfortunately, that Lake Charles never gets into the eye. You get the northeastern eye wall, you get the eastern eye wall, you get the southeastern eye wall, and there's no break. And I don't know if anybody in Lake Charles has really ever experienced anything quite like that. The eye wall of a major hurricane for a few hours. You got to shelter like for a tornado. I mean, seriously, we could lose lives if people don't do that.
Okay, so as this is coming ashore, you've got the wind and you've got the water. How much time will you have that combo of the highest surge and the strongest winds, and how long will that surge stay up once the storm, the strong winds pass? How long will it take for it to go down?
Well, for it to completely drain, it could take many hours to a day or two because there's going to be so much rainwater mixed in there as well. But trying to figure out when the highest water rise would occur due to storm surge and how long that'll take to drain. Well, let's take a look first that it's already 4 feet above normally dry ground on the northern eye wall, and 3 feet or so on the coast down there. But it's only 1.5 feet or so of rise in Lake Charles right now. But when you look at the timing of the onshore push, it looks like that we're going to be dealing with the high tide around 6 a.m. local time, but around 2 to 3 a.m. local time, that's when the southerly push will really begin in earnest, and it will last well past the eye wall, passing you past sunrise. So there could be a good 6-hour period there, either side of high tide, where you've got your highest storm surge flooding, but because of the rainfall-induced flooding being added to that, it's going to take a long time for all this water to drain, Steph. It could be flooded in Lake Charles for a day or more.
Okay, Dr. Knabb, now going inland, because I do want to service those in the Shreveport, Little Rock, even Memphis, up to southern Missouri, over to Kentucky. What should they expect to experience and when?
Well, the rainfall is going to be a big issue up in that area. And now, in northern Louisiana, it's not going to be too much longer before they start experiencing the winds of tropical storm force. And in Arkansas, when they wake up tomorrow, they're going to start dealing with tropical storm conditions. And sustained tropical storm force winds could be occurring in places like Little Rock when we get into tomorrow. But after that, and that could cause a whole lot of power outages, but after that, you're going to be dealing with strong winds that could at least be due just to the gustiness of the storm itself. But Steph, we're going to have a big tornado risk along and to the east of the center, and that could happen in places like Mississippi and Tennessee and even Alabama. So a lot of people are going to get a lot of wind out of this when we get into Friday.
All right, Dr. Knabb, we appreciate all your expertise, of course, former Hurricane Center Director at the Weather Channel. That is Dr. Knabb for you. He knows all the details. Someone else who knows all the details as well is my pal, Jim Cantori, who is essentially on the other side of the building where I'm located. He's one building over, but he's basically on the other side. And so he's a little more protected from that wind. And Jim, it's incredible. I literally could walk over to you. It would probably take me, what, 10 minutes? You know, for the moment. It's not going to last for 10 minutes, but that just shows you know, how conditions, I'm making the point that how conditions can be so different in one neighborhood to another.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you've got a fortress here of 20 stories, 23 stories or whatever to kind of block the wind from you, it works out. But our winds are going to come around, guys. As a matter of fact, the eye wall right now, Jess, pop up the radar here quick, is just about 10 miles from the coast, which means it's about 40 miles from us here in Lake Charles. Now, that's the worst of the weather. Now, one thing we just saw issued by the National Weather Service, and remember, Brownsville's doing Lake Charles's work because Lake Charles evacuated their office because of potential inundation at the office. Okay, so as a high wind warning. And this is kind of new, a little bit new to a lot of us. And Dr. Nab, you can refresh me a little bit as to where and when this was actually implemented. It may have been, it just escapes me right now due to vapor lock out in these things for a few days. But what does it mean? Isn't it, it's kind of a ramp up of, hey, this is where you can't go outside. You're likely going to lose power, potentially even cell service as well, right?
Well, the real reason for the extreme wind warning is that the strong winds of a major hurricane, of an eye wall, can do tornado-like damage and can cause damage to the point where if you are not sheltering like you should for a tornado, then your structure could be damaged, debris could be flying around, and you could die in your home. And in Rita, we lost several people, even outside of the eye wall, over in Texas, for falling trees into their home. And so this is, it's not a hurricane warning, kind of warning that you issue a couple days in advance to do all the preparations and get ready. An extreme wind warning for the eye wall is you've got to get into your final safest possible shelter, like for a tornado, put a helmet on and get ready for what could feel like dealing with a tornado, and to shelter from the flying debris of the wind, because you can't guarantee that your structure is going to be able to keep out the debris.
And my friend, there's a lot of trees down here in Southwest Louisiana and eastern Texas. So yeah, this isn't like a tornado warning either. I should say that, because usually you see those last, maybe 20 minutes at the most, but this lasts, till about 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
so, it's essentially as the eye wall moves inland. So they are a little bit longer than that. So, just expect that ramp up though. Yeah, I mean, that's about as good a warning as you can get, Dr. Nab, that ramp up, right?
Yeah, and this could get extended because they issued the warning about an hour before the eye wall first arrives on the coast, but they issued the extreme wind warning all the way up into Lake Charles. But I think, the center of circulation is going to pass near Lake Charles in about 3 to 4 hours, and that will be beyond 1 a.m. Central Time. And with the eye wall probably still intact, then they're probably going to have to extend that extreme wind warning. And Jim, this goes all the way back to Hurricane Charlie. Remember when that tiny Charlie was doing tornado-like damage across Central Florida? Then the Melbourne Forecast Office in Central Florida, without any other tool in the box to get people to shelter from the eye wall, they issued a tornado warning, and we realized we needed an extreme wind warning for the eye wall of a hurricane because it operates on a different time scale, and you can give a longer warning for the eye wall than you can for a tornado.
Yeah, of course, Charlie back in 2004, a part of the assault that started on Florida for 2 years there with hurricanes and like a 30-mile wide hurricane, a tornado essentially coming across. So that makes sense. And Dr. Nab, I knew you'd easily be able to answer that question and give me a great refresher on that. But I thought you brought up a really interesting point in the fact that, yes, this is for the northern eye wall right now, this extreme wind warning. We get into the eye, don't be fooled, because you're going to get a calm, but then you're going to get the southern eye wall. The winds will come from a complete different direction, and like you said, they may issue another extreme wind warning as a result of that, or like you just extend it.
I think it's going to be an extension, and especially given that Lake Charles, there's a decent chance that you never get into the eye. And so you could be in the northern and northeastern eye wall, and then the eastern eye wall, and then maybe the southeastern eye wall. And so if you're going to be in the eye wall that whole time, you're going to have to be sheltering like you would for a tornado the entire time. Okay, so that's, again, in this extreme wind warning area, it's for this. It's for this northern eye wall that's about to come ashore. But the center is probably going to pass just west of Lake Charles. So you get the northeastern and then the eastern and then the southeastern eye wall. You could be in the eye wall for several hours. And so I think it's going to be beyond 1 a.m. Central Time that you're going to have to stay sheltered in Lake Charles. And again, this is a life-saving step that people need to take to go to the lowest level, most interior room, have a helmet on, and treat it like a tornado.
Doc, you know what I think would be something interesting to do for everybody is when we come back and talk to you, because I'm going to throw it to Steph here in a second, is take the base velocity, look at it over Lake Charles. All right, and we know we're going to go up in elevation as we move away out over the water because it's away from the radar site. But to see the change in the wind as we go into that eye wall, I think that'll be a real nice visual for people to be able to see just how incredible that is. Now, granted, we may not get ground truth to that because it's elevated, but I think that would be really something good to show everybody. Steph, let's go over to you now at the Golden Nugget.
All right, so here we're on the backside. We are completely exposed. Now remember, Jim has a little protection where he is, but we have the Calcasieu River right behind us, and so therefore there's less friction. And so we've just got those winds cranking right at us. There's nothing to slow it down, and that water is going to be rising up. Now this is worst case scenario with a major hurricane. Major, by the way, is Cat 3 or higher coming in the middle of the night. It can't get any worse than that. And as Dr. Nat was saying, you have to treat this as if it's a tornado. Yeah, a tornado that's over 100 miles wide, as it literally is going to buzzsaw from Cameron up towards Sulphur, up towards, where we are in Lake Charles, and then continue north into Shreveport and into Arkansas too. We already have 30,000 people in Louisiana without power, and we have yet to even be close to the worst part of this system. And so it's going to continue to deteriorate, and it's going to hit us really hard here. So be prepared, and we will walk you through this step by step. We're here for you before, during, and after the storm. This is epic!
You're watching America's most trusted TV news network.
We've got a severe weather threat. We are live on the ground.
Right now it's coming down.
The Weather Channel.
Currently in our area, 82 degrees under fair skies. Tonight, mostly clear, low 70, winds south at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Thursday, mainly sunny, high 93, winds south at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Thursday night, a mostly clear sky, low 70, winds south-southeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Here's our 7-day outlook.
All right, guys, you're looking live at behind La Berge at what is obviously a whole different situation there with the winds in the direction they're coming in, not blocked by this fortress that is La Berge, getting the full brunt pretty much right off the Calcasieu lake there, that's back there, and of course behind that the refinery. So there's nothing really to block the wind. So we're just getting the full force of it. Which, by the way, according to Rob Macedo, my buddy with the Skywarn spotters out of Taunton, says we've gotten 64 now in Lake Charles in terms of a gust. Actually, 68. Just came in. They had a sustained of 39 miles per hour. We had 70 at Calcasieu Pass, and Sabine Pass has already been up towards 70. 20,000 customers without power as we speak. We know that number is going to go up, and it's going to go up exponentially because of this extreme wind warning, where we're going to get some of the worst of the winds coming in. The eye wall just about 5 to 10 miles offshore. All right, I left you guys with a little teaser here. I want to bring Dr. Nab back in because we can do a little rough work with the radar here, Dr. Nab, to kind kind of look at where the winds are overhead at Lake Charles and then go out into that eye wall to see just how powerful they are. And granted, I want the folks to know that the beam angle is a half a degree. So the farther we go away from the beam, the higher you up. And that doesn't always, and it never usually points to the ground truth of what actually makes it to the surface. So that's just kind of a precursor. But Dr. Knapp, I'll let you take it and show just how dramatic the increase in those winds are once you get out into that eye wall.
Yeah, and we know some about this with regard to how LoRa is structured because of what the aircraft showed in the last few hours.
Right.
So, yeah, what you're looking at here are the wind velocities, and it's measured from the radar up in Lake Charles. So, and where you get that solid line down straight south from there is a change in the wind direction. You know, it's going away from the radar on the left, it's going toward the radar on the right. And again, like Jim said, when you go higher up, out over the water where the eye wall is, there you're getting, velocities, well over 100 miles an hour. And that's very similar, Jim, to velocities that we got from the aircraft at that 10,000, 12,000 foot altitude. And when you adjust that down to the surface, you take about 90% of that, and you get an estimate of a surface wind. And so this is very consistent with what the aircraft were showing. So you see that max velocity there headed toward the radar at 140 something miles an hour. The aircraft got winds almost that strong at 10,000 feet. Now, I think this is probably maybe a little bit lower than that. We'll have to interrogate that exactly what altitude we're measuring at. But bottom line is that this is a solid Cat 4 with max sustained winds at the surface of 150 miles an hour. Now, it won't be that strong a wind sustained in Lake Charles, but it won't be a whole lot weaker, and the gusts are stronger over land than they are over water.
Yeah, it's just incredible, though, to see the difference in what's overhead Lake Charles right now, because that's real-time data, Dr. Knapp, as you know. So we're looking at, essentially at what's going on right now as this thing is coming on in, and what is going to, make its way in with the eye wall. All right, again, Steph, on the backside of these two very large casino resorts, some pretty strong winds back there. Give us an update.
Yeah, I am. I was just in our shelter. Sorry, Ken, Dory. I was just taking a quick break there, but I'm out here now. And here's the thing. We've had a gust to 61 miles an hour, and my anemometer that I'm holding, I've been able to get a gust to 33. Obviously, this is unofficial, and you have to go with the stronger gust. And you can see how it's kind of really, if you're not standing steady and sturdy, it can really blow you over. Now, Jim is protected by his hotel. I'm actually on the back side of my hotel. He's on the front side of the hotel, which is, probably a 10-15 minute walk from here for now. But behind me, the Calcasieu River, we're watching this very closely over the next couple of hours, I should say. That water is going to rise up, and then it will come up fairly quickly. Those winds are also going to crank here as we head over the next couple hours. There is a potential that we could stay in the eye wall the entire time. We're talking several hours of winds over 100 miles an hour. That's going to do significant damage to the structures. Chris Bruin's down here. In fact, our whole team, you can't sleep during one of these hurricanes. We've got Tevin Wooten, we have Jordan Steele, Chris Bruin, everyone's down here. Chris has told me that there's already some trees down actually on the other side of the building. We're all one big team gathering content for you guys to get you as much information as we can. And we'll be showing that to you on the Weather Channel and also on social media as well. This is a historic storm. There's only been 3 known Category 4s to make landfall in Louisiana, 2 of those in the 1800s, the other one, Betsy in 65. And Betsy in 65, if people remember that one, it was more mouth of the Mississippi River and then up to central Louisiana. We've never had a Cat 4 hurricane make landfall in this part of Louisiana. So this is going to be the first. It is a major hurricane. That northern eye wall is just coming on into Cameron, Louisiana. It will devastate, absolutely devastate the towns it goes through. The water rise here it's just tremendous because it could actually be higher than Rita. It's forecasted to be higher than Rita. Rita was 9.43, and right now the forecast for the river where I am here, 15.6. And then, of course, you have the rainfall on top of that, Jim. So the issue is you get a foot of rainfall and it's trying to wash out while the winds are pushing that water in. And so hour by hour, we are going to continue to broadcast so long as it's safe to do so. And, Jim, we can actually get a signal out with the weather we'll be contending with.
Yeah, and guys, I'm telling you, you're going to be shocked at how fast this water is going to come up once this eye wall gets on shore, once the center comes on shore, which could be actually just to our west. So, Steph, we may stay here in Lake Charles in that eye. Destructive winds and catastrophic storm surge. We will continue to update you on Laura. Final approach into southwest Louisiana as we speak.
Well, Hurricane Laura is going to be making history, making landfall as a Category 4 hurricane. We've only seen 3 hurricanes in Louisiana at Cat 4 strength. 2 of those were in the 1800s. The other one was in 1965. And this is what it's looking like in and around Lake Charles, Louisiana. You see that there's some leaf debris. Chris Bruin is here with us as well. In fact, our whole team is here. No one can sleep when something like this is happening. Chris Bruin said he was out and saw that some trees were down actually already from the storm, and we're still a couple hours away from the worst part of Hurricane Laura, a Category 4 hurricane. We've never had a 4 or 5 make landfall in this part of Louisiana. And like I said, the last Cat 4 we had was in 65 in the state. So we've had some pretty gusty winds at times, and then it lightens up. But it's going to go downhill from here. Not only are we going to have to deal with the winds, but also the surge. I want you to listen to these numbers. The Calcasieu River is behind me, okay? And the forecast is for 15.6 feet. All right, 15.6 feet. The record, it was 14 set back in 1913. And the National Weather Service forecasting 15.6. Rita got to 9.43. Just to give you some perspective, Rita 9.43 devastated Lake Charles, and the forecast is for 15.6 for the Calcasieu River, where we are right behind me. That's the closest observation site. Now, this is not just a coastal event. And, you know, our job at the Weather Channel is we want to service everyone. We want to show you, you know, who's going to be feeling the effects of the system. And it's not just us here into southern Louisiana. This is going to be moving in Shreveport, northern parishes of Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, by the way, Memphis. We've already had 35,000 power outages between Louisiana and Texas. That's how many customers are without power. Remember, we tell you customers, you could have 4, 5, 6, 8 people living in one house. So many more people than we're actually reporting are without power. But that rainfall, this is going to be a problem, not only here near the coast because you'll have that surge while the water's trying to drain out, the surge keeps it up. But look at Arkansas, flooding rain, 5 to 8 inches of rain could come down here. And then as this combines with the front and races off all the way into the mid-Atlantic, here's one of those stronger gusts. You're going to have that wind combination of what we call a synoptic scale system combined with our tropical entity, and that could still bring you some power outages. But Little Rock, I mean, you can see half a foot of rain. Now, there's always people, I shouldn't say people, there's always cities that will overachieve on the rainfall. So keep that in mind. We give you a range so you have an idea, but there's always cities that overachieve. And we will see that. And just an interesting note, tropical cyclones actually have very small raindrops. I just find this fascinating. This isn't going to make a difference in how much rainfall you get. It doesn't make a difference. But what is interesting is tropical systems have very small raindrops relative to big cold fronts that you see. You want to know why? Is because with the cold fronts, the rain that you get usually starts as snow or hail or some form of ice that's much bigger. And then it melts and you get a bigger drop at the surface. When you're talking tropical entities, it's warm throughout. And so that's why your raindrops are smaller. We can go to Jim to talk more about that. And Jim, you know, I know that it's not going to necessarily make a difference, you know, on the type of rainfall people are getting or what they're going to see type of a thing. But meteorologically, it's interesting, A. And also we've gotten more sophisticated with our radars in determining raindrops and what we're seeing in the atmosphere.
Yeah, it is kind of amazing, certainly what those radars can do. They can look at wind speed, they can, you know, estimate hail size, if it's raining in the thunderstorm or hailing, is it wet hail? I mean, it really is amazing, and it's all math. It's all math that figures that out at the end of the day, and a lot of research by a lot of fine meteorologists that went into that. All right, guys, Calcasieu Pass, gusting to 83 miles per hour. I think it's interesting that we've got as many power outages, Jason, tell me if I'm right or not, as we had 20,000 in Louisiana as we do in Texas? Okay, so 25,000 Louisiana, 10,000 Texas. Sorry, that makes a little bit more sense to me, certainly, with what we've got going on the South Coast, and especially now these gusts getting up to 83 miles per hour. Guys, we are under an extreme wind warning, which is essentially a long-term tornado warning, as Dr. Knabb so eloquently, talked about. And when this came about, of course, was Charlie, when it came across Florida diagonally like a 30-mile wide tornado. The weather service didn't have anything in their arsenal that could kind of talk about this. So this is really going to give people a tremendous amount of lead time as this eye wall comes in, and it is right offshore right now. All right. I mean, you can see where the eye is with this thing, the large eye, over 25 nautical miles here, making its way toward the coastline, potentially somewhere down there in Cameron Parish, coming on in and eventually moving on to the north over Lake Charles over the next 2 to 3 hours. Much more to come, guys. We continue to cover Laura. Final approach to southwest Louisiana. Cat 4.
And we're bringing you back live to Lake Charles, Louisiana, and showing you what it's like as conditions actually have been pretty consistently going downhill. This is what it looks like. Our Charles Peak, who's on our team, is driving around, and I want everyone to know, at the Weather Channel, it is safety first, without a doubt. I've been here almost 20 years, and there is never a risk that we will take. So Charles will go in when he feels it's unsafe, when we know it's unsafe. But you see there's a lot of trees. Chris Bruin is here. We have our whole team here. He was reporting there were some trees down actually already with some of these winds that we've seen gusting to 61. I saw Calcasieu Pass just gusting to 82 miles an hour. And you see these winds, if you've been watching us, are definitely getting stronger. So I want to talk to Dr. Knabb about that. We're in the field. I try to get as much data as I can out here. But Dr. Knabb, of course, has all his computers and can do it all and help us out. So Dr. Knabb, I have to say things definitely are gustier from even just the last hour. Let's talk about what's changed and how much closer we are to that northern eye wall, because we've got to be getting closer to it.
Yeah, so let's talk about where the center is relative to the coast. It's about an hour and a half, or maybe a little bit less, away from making landfall. So here's the coastline. Center of circulation is 25 miles off the coast, still moving 15 miles an hour, so a little bit more than an hour. So it'll be close to 2 a.m. Eastern, 1 a.m. Central Time, I think, when the center of circulation comes ashore. But the northern eye wall is already on the coast there in the Cameron area, and that's why we're getting those reports of Calcasieu Pass gusting over 80 miles an hour, and it's probably stronger than that now. And then the center of circulation comes ashore, but then it's about 2 hours from the time of landfall till the time of closest pass of the center of circulation to Lake Charles. And I still think that's going to be west of you, so that keeps you in the northeastern and then the eastern eye wall for the most part, and then the southeastern eye wall after that. Not much of a break for Lake Charles, I don't think.
That's terrible. Okay, so let's talk about that eye wall, because when you're looking at this radar, someone sees, I want to say, that yellow and orange, and I want to know from you, being, PhD, Director of the Hurricane Center, you know this stuff better than anyone. When I look at the eye wall, would you consider, what part, let's talk about, do you consider the eye wall? Because is it really just right around the eye that you consider the eye wall? Or will you say that, it goes out where we have those yellow and orange portions? Dissect it for us.
Yeah. The eye wall is called what it's called because it's really the part that is immediately adjacent to the eye. But we typically talk about an eye wall having some width to it. It's not just the interior wall that you see from inside the eye. And I think what is on the coast right now in the Cameron area is the northern eye wall. But there's banding in between Cameron and Lake Charles that is not the eye wall. And so, the eye wall is a few miles thick. So it's like in a concrete structure. Your walls aren't paper thin; they have some thickness to them, and so that's why when you go through the northern eye wall, it'll be a little bit as the winds are strong. But the problem for Lake Charles, though, is that you're going to stay in the eye wall as it goes parallel to you.
All right,
and look at what's going on in Cameron, Louisiana.
Cameron is that town.
Wow. Yeah, this is a live shot from Cameron, Louisiana, and we saw this kind of look in our landfalling hurricanes earlier this year with the horizontal rain. These are stronger winds than what we had in the other hurricanes that made landfall this year, but this is getting into the northern eye wall of our hurricane. Now, this might not be the strongest winds that the hurricane has to offer, because I think those would be in the northeastern to eastern eye wall, east of Cameron. But still, you're getting the northern to northwestern eye wall, and it is going to be major hurricane conditions there. And Steph, so that's a preview of what's coming your way in a couple hours.
Okay, so here's my question. How long will it take for this to say, let's move past late? How long are we going to be dealing with this type of weather, and of course the worst weather, and then the southern part of this? You forget, it's not just that northern eye wall. It's going to be, another 8 hours until this gets past us and is, in Shreveport and then eventually in Little Rock?
Well, yeah, it's kind of handy to talk about it in terms of how long will you be dealing with hurricane conditions. And I think the hurricane conditions for Lake Charles will be a nearly continuous period for something like 6 hours. It is my best estimate. It's moving 15 miles an hour. You've got, 30, 40, 50 miles on the front side, same thing on the back. But there's going to be tropical storm force winds after the hurricane conditions subside, and that will last well into the day tomorrow.
All right, Dr. Knabb, I'm trying to take wind observations out here, and I just have a very little instrument, but I just want people to know where I am. I'm gusting near 40 miles an hour. Do you think this is a good representation of the type of wind I'm standing in?
Well, you've got some obstruction that is limiting your exposure for safety reasons. So given that obstruction that you've intentionally put in your way, then that's probably a pretty good estimate of what you are personally experiencing. But if you were to not have that obstruction, if you were open exposure, the winds would be a lot stronger. The airport has gusted over 60, 70 miles an hour. And so, when that starts gusting over 100, when the center of the hurricane goes by, then what you personally experience will be a lot stronger.
And we've just had a kick up. I don't know if we can go back to the radar. We must be having some sort of band that is rocking through here right now, because this is a significant difference, Dr. Knabb, than even just, 15, 20 minutes ago. Yeah. All right, we just got a 72 mile per hour gust. And we will continue to follow this story. We have to take a quick commercial break, but we're with you live as long as it's safe to broadcast and we're able to do so. This is epic.
You're watching America's most trusted TV news network.
We've got severe weather threat. We are live on the ground.
Right now, it's coming down.
The Weather Channel.
Currently in our area, 81 degrees under clear skies. Tonight, mostly clear, low 70, winds south at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Thursday, mainly sunny, high 93, winds south at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Thursday night, a mostly clear sky, low 70, winds south-southeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Here's our 7-day outlook.
Things are going downhill and downhill fast. We've had gusts up to 72 miles an hour. Remember, hurricane force is 74 miles an hour. Getting pounded right now. The water, by the way, is still not going up, but the winds are ferocious. And they're only going to get worse as this system is coming ashore, that northern eye wall in Cameron, Louisiana right now. That is right on the Gulf Gulf of Mexico, which is about 30 miles as the crow flies from where I am going down. The Calcasieu River is behind me. This shot here is showing us an area not too far from where I'm located, but the Calcasieu River behind me, and it goes right into the Gulf of Mexico. Here's a look at Charles Peak. He's on our team, and he's driving around, and he's been giving us these images, but look at this. If you've been with us, we've been going downhill in the sheets of rain. By the way, if you ever wonder what it feels like someone is taking a handful of pebbles and just throwing them at my face. That's what it feels like. The rain is going almost horizontal. The winds have been picking up pretty steadily. Now remember, we're still a couple hours away from the worst of the weather, and it could be devastating for Lake Charles, Sulphur. We're going to look at all these cities because we could stay in the eye wall the entire time, no break. All right, our eye about 30 some odd miles across, you get a little bit of a break, but don't let that deceive you. Because from my experience, and I've been at the Weather Channel almost 20 years, and I've been through a couple eye walls, Gene and Ike. And what I remember going through these eye walls is you go through one, and it really loosens everything up, okay? And then you go through the second, and there's so much more debris when you're going through that second eye wall, because that first one has really loosened everything up, has caused, debris and everything to be torn off. I'm not saying that the first eye wall is an easy one to go to. All I'm saying is that second eye wall, I always distinctly remember a lot more debris. So keep that in mind. You do not want to go out during the eye and get caught in that second eye wall. Wow! That one almost took me on my feet there for 1 second. All right, quick check on the water. It's still not rising very high. We're watching it, and by the way, my crew is elevated. In fact, my photog is sitting in a chair. I mean, he doesn't have any rain gear on. That's how protected my crew is right now, okay? So we can easily get to higher ground here and move up when we need to do that, because we do anticipate the water to be rising, and it will be slowly rising and then coming quick. Whew, sometimes you got to catch your breath and slow down for a second. I want to bring in Dr. Nab here to talk about the winds, because Dr. Nab, I was just talking to you, 5 minutes ago, and it is significantly worse. If we can look at that radar, dissect the radar, and it's just on Twitter trying to update everyone. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the social media as well, for people. And they thought it was really interesting to learn about the eye wall. And so, I think that here at the Weather Channel, we can give that expertise. What has changed in the last 5 minutes? And I'm guessing it's just one of those bands and getting closer to the eye wall.
Yeah, you haven't gotten into the eye wall yet, Steph, but you're getting into the more consistent heavy bands. It's not that you're in the outer bands and you've got a break in between them. Now you're into the very consistent heavy rain, and you're solidly into the tropical storm force winds, sustained, and it's not going to stop raining and blowing. There aren't going to be any breaks now. And the center of circulation is about an hour away from making landfall at the coastline. And then it's about a 2-hour trip for the center of circulation from making landfall and making its closest pass probably just west of Lake Charles. So what that means is, with the eye wall onshore in the Cameron area right now, you're a couple hours away from the northern and northeastern eye wall being over Lake Charles. But then, because it's probably going to pass to the west of there, Lake Charles might clip the eye a little bit, but largely will be in the eastern eye wall as the center passes closest by there in about 3 hours. But then 3-4 hours from now, you'll be in the southeastern eye wall. So it is going to be a several-hour ordeal in Lake Charles. And, again, the center of circulation is not going to pass by you for another 3 hours, and it's going to make landfall on the coast in about an hour. And they issued this extreme wind warning about an hour in advance of this northern eye wall coming ashore to get people to shelter. treat it like a tornado. That's what the extreme wind warning is about. Now, currently, that's in effect until 1 a.m. Central Time. However, that is going to have to be extended because about 1 a.m. Central Time, the center of circulation will be making landfall. So, Jim, it's going to be a few more hours where people need to take that life-saving shelter like a tornado, lowest level, most interior room with a helmet on.
Hey, Dr. Navis, we like to do with this thing. I want you to call landfall. I'm thinking Cameron, Louisiana. I think we could get in the eye here in Lake Charles, believe it or not. It's really coming north. It's a big eye, so a part of that certainly is a possibility in through here. But here's the deal. We just had a weather flow station come in at 101 mile per hour wind gust. Okay, 100 mile per hour wind gust. 101 actually. 35,000 in Louisiana alone now without power. A lot more are going to go down very soon.
And we want to bring you the latest on Hurricane Laura. I'm meteorologist Stephanie Abrams live in Lake Charles, Louisiana, where things have been consistently deteriorating over the last, I would say, even 30 minutes here. Winds have been getting stronger. The water behind me, the Calcasieu River, we're watching that very closely because we anticipate that surge to rise up. And when it does so, we will be getting to higher ground here. Now, I want to talk about some of our wind gusts. That eyewall, that northern eyewall is coming on shore in Cameron, Louisiana, and they are getting crushed. We had a gust there of 101 miles an hour. We actually have a camera that we can show you in Cameron. The quality's not great, but you'll get the gist. I mean, can you imagine, going through the eyewall of a Cat 4, technology is going to be maybe perhaps not the best, but it's enough to give you a gist of what it looks like. There it is for you. That's what it looks like right now in the northern eyewall in Cameron, Louisiana. I know it's tough to see anything, but you can tell that that rain is going in the horizontal. That is outrageous. I'm telling you, there's surge. Has to be very high. This camera, nobody's there, just so we have that known. It's a Nest Cam, one of those you just tie up and let it go. But the fact we're still getting that signal is incredible that this is a live picture right now of that eye wall. And unfortunately here in Lake Charles, Louisiana, we could be in the eye wall for several hours. We might not get the eye. The eye might go just to the west of us, and that is worst case scenario when you stay in the eye wall. We have another perspective to show you as well. We also have a camera here on our building that we've attached to one of the balconies to give you a look, an overview look of what it is like here. There's those winds, by the way, those wind speeds. In Lake Charles, we've gusted to 72. And remember, hurricane force is 74 miles an hour. I think we're going to switch to that other camera to just give you an idea of what it looks like. There are some trees down. This is a team effort. No one can sleep during a storm like this. So Chris Brown is out there. He said there's some trees down. He was letting me know. Tevin Woon is here. He's going to come up in a little bit as well and give you live reports, and Jordan Steele as well. But here is our shot. This is from the balcony of our hotel. And that is the Calcasieu River. All right, and you see it has not inundated the area yet, but during Rita, the river got to 9.43 feet. And the forecast for this one, 15.6. And Rita devastated Lake Charles. And so the fact that we're going to see potentially, surge up to 15.6 feet. Remember, a one-story house is about 10 feet high. And so you have to put it all in perspective as you're watching these storms come in. And we've never had a 4 or 5 make landfall in this part of Louisiana. In fact, we've only had 3 known Category 4s make landfall in Louisiana, 2 of those in the 1800s. And then there was Betsy in 65, if you remember that one, but it came in the mouth of the Mississippi. This is wild, guys. Look at this shot right here. And we are nowhere near the eye wall yet. It's going to take probably another couple hours. So you want to stay tuned to the Weather Channel, because when we get in that eye wall, so long as we can broadcast, we don't lose our signal. These days we actually broadcast via the internet, a Wi-Fi signal. So as long as that can stay up, we will bring you live shots of what it's like to go through the eye wall of a Category 4 hurricane. Now, let's go into Mark Elliott. So I can catch my breath a little bit out here, Mark. Sometimes it really can take your breath away at times. And talk about the timing of this, not only at the coast, but I also want to service our viewers who are in the northern parishes of Louisiana, Shreveport, going up into Arkansas, even Memphis. We have the potential because the diameter of those tropical storm force winds is some 400 miles across.
Absolutely, Stephanie. This is a significant wind event. Will continue to be so over the next several hours. You're right that we may never get fully out of that eye wall in a place like Lake Charles. Real quick, just to get everyone their bearings, new advisory is in. Hourly updates here, 150 mile per hour winds continuing as this eye is approaching the coast. And a look at some of that wind as we work our way through the coast and beyond. High resolution look at this across hundreds of miles. The eye wall is approaching the coast now, so that picture a little bit old. Here's a better look at it and what we can expect as we work our way through the next several hours. So where Stephanie is standing and will be broadcasting for us, the winds are already gusting above 70 miles per hour. We're easily going to continue to ramp that up. Give it another hour or so, 100 mile per hour wind gusts in the Lake Charles area. This will only continue to ramp up towards places like Natchitoches, 50 to 60 miles per hour by 6 a.m., but you'll get 100 mile per hour gusts in that 9 a.m. window or so. This is going to last a long time, continuing inland from there. Just another look at that. Look at the expanse of this wind field. We're talking tropical storm force winds through the whole state, more or less, of Louisiana, all the way through the morning. We could still have a core, Stephanie, of hurricane force winds that gets all the way to Shreveport. It doesn't get there until about noon, maybe 1 o'clock local time. That is a long duration event for so many. This is not just a coastal event at all, Steph. You are right about that.
Yeah. Mark, I appreciate your information. Also, let me catch my breath there for a second. Now let's switch to, there's so many different aspects of this storm, and I'd like to cover as many as we can here right now. The surge. That water is going to push in while the rain is coming down, and that gives us a really exacerbates a problem because that rain's going to want to flow out to the Gulf. Meanwhile, the Gulf is coming in. When is that all going to play out?
Right now, that is a significant storm surge, a life-threatening storm surge that is on the way. That eastern eye wall is picking up the Gulf of Mexico waters as Stephanie's kind of bending down against that wind. That is part of the eye wall coming through. The northern extent of the eye wall isn't quite to Stephanie yet, but there are these big bands rotating around our system coming right into Lake Charles. That's helping to force the wind down from aloft, bring it all the way down to the surface because of that heavy rain. It's transporting that wind aloft down to where Stephanie is. Back to the potential for storm surge, though. At the coastline, widespread alerts for this storm surge. Storm surge warnings are up. We're talking tens of miles inland with storm surge warnings, and these are numbers that you just don't see every day. We're starting to see a water rise at the coast 4 to 6 feet, but there's a potential here near Cameron, for example, 15 to 20 feet. That's into the second floor. The second story is going to have water into those levels. If people are still there, they are in big trouble. And we are watching that kind of event move through southern Louisiana right now. It will be towards Lake Charles, towards, say, 6 in the morning or so, with the worst of that timing for the Lake Charles area. So, Steph, it's just ramping up. From here on out, you're going to watch that river behind you continue to climb.
I'm telling you, I point out, I'm sure it's very hard to see. I don't know if you could see it at all. The water is definitely coming up, not quickly, very slowly. It is absolutely coming up. All right, we're going to take our camera that is on the balcony to give you a better view of the river. Again, it's the Calcasieu River that's right behind me, and that is what is going to inundate us here. There is the camera. I know it's hard to see, but the wind, the rain is obscuring the view a bit, but that's the beach. Just to give you some perspective, remember this shot right here, okay? And we'll see as we go back to it, you see that brown area on the bottom? That's the beach. So how much will that beach be covered up the next time we go back to this camera? Well, try to remember what it looks like right now so you can get some perspective. It's what? Let's see, it's 12 o'clock local time, 1 o'clock Eastern. And you can see there's still plenty of beach left, right? So try to remember that. Around midnight, local time, still plenty of beach. But I want to check in with Jim. I know he's been doing some repositioning. Jim, where's your location right now? We are getting hammered. And it's just getting worse and worse as we anticipated.
Yeah, so we're just on the front side of LaBerge, stepping through here. Obviously, you know, what I think's happening a little bit with you too is you're getting the bounce, if you will, off the backside of the building, just enhancing those winds. Because you look out over the parking lot, you can certainly see the steady stream of wind going through the lights and through here. It was interesting, the arm of this parking lot actually just kind of opened on its own, which was really weird. Nothing even drove through there. Obviously, it takes weight on either side of the pad to open that. But we had a weather flow station in Cameron, Louisiana, gust to 110 miles an hour. So that's high-end Cat 2. So somewhere near Cameron, we're probably going to see a landfall here very shortly. The northern eyewall is obviously coming in there right now. So they're about 28 miles as the crow flies from where we are right here to our south. So, do the timing, another hour and a half or so, we're going to get into that as well. We've already gusted to pretty close to hurricane force. Calcasieu Pass has been in the 80s as well, and we continue to see power outages really ramp up here. At last count, that was over 10 minutes ago, we had 35,000 just in Louisiana alone, and we know those are going to ramp up big time in through here. So again, Steph, let me ask you this. Even though you're getting hammered there, has there been any kind of a change in the wind? Do you notice a change in the direction at all? Or is it just basically due northeast at you?
Yeah. Okay, so it's interesting you say that because I feel like it had been northeast for a while. And now I want to say it's just coming right down this boardwalk, Jim. I mean, there's nothing stopping this wind from us. And that's why it is so intense. I have zero shelter where I'm located, so it's just rushing up. Now my crew is completely sheltered. As I mentioned, my photog doesn't even have his rain gear on. That's how protected they are. But I want to ask you, because I know you've been walking around your hotel. Chris Bruin is reporting some trees down. Have you seen any trees down?
I really don't, because I'm trying to look down all the roadways that are lit back and through here, and you can certainly see the trees that are in the parking lot, the landscape trees. They're pretty much taking everything from what we see, but it really depends on where you are, and I think a lot of that has to do with the funneling effect. If anybody's watching this from Chicago right now, you know what happens when you walk between the buildings, right? It's called the Venturi effect. The wind accelerates going through, because it has to go through a smaller area, so you get an increase in speed in that wind, and that can certainly, be a part of the trees down. The other thing too, Steph, is there's just a lot of trees down here. Okay, there's a lot of trees in Southwest Louisiana. Phenomenal amounts of timber, eastern Texas, all the way up the Louisiana-Texas state line into Arkansas here. So we expect, especially with this thing holding together, with this eye wall, you saw the model data today actually showing the eye going all the way up almost to Kentucky. Not necessarily the eye, but at least the circulation center, pretty much intact. So that's where some of the strongest winds are going to be. But rainfall continues to be very, very heavy. We mentioned that gust at Cameron, Louisiana, now at 110 miles an hour. So that's high-end Cat 2. Remember, 111 is Cat 3 there. So we're right on the borderline. That's probably going to go up as they get into the teeth of that eye wall, and that is all coming our way. So the next hour and a half or so, or maybe even sooner, we're going to get into that. So Steph, again, give us an update back there of how difficult it is to stand up.
Jim, it's a little hard to hear you. I think you asked about how difficult it is to stand up, and it's getting stronger. And so I just want everyone to know, and I know you can speak to this, that first of all, it feels like someone is throwing rocks. That's what the rain feels like. It's so intense. Jim, I know you went, we got a little bit of a breather there. You went into a wind tunnel to see, what strength you could stand at. And I want people to understand that you really cannot stand out in sustained hurricane force winds. And these are just gusts that are coming through, right? We're not at sustained hurricane force. We gusted to 72, hurricane 74. But Jim, from your experience in that wind tunnel, maybe you can give our viewers an idea of really what a human can stand in before it's too strong.
Well, as we know, Steph, whether you're on Mount Washington, trying to do the Mile High Club up there, and walk around on the deck and make a circle standing up without going down. It's very hard, remember, because winds are got to be sustained or over 100 miles an hour, and not many can do that at all, staying on their feet. So especially when there's wind and even rain involved, there's a mass in rain, so that's hitting you too, pushing you back. But I actually think that the fact that you're there is a little bit more truth, frankly, to what is actually going on with this hurricane now, because we're getting the gusts to what kind of wind that you're standing in. Okay, we've gotten 70, 80 mile per hour gusts very close by us here. I'm a little bit more protected, certainly, but we're waiting for those winds to come around. They'll come around, especially if the cellar goes to our west. They've got to come around to the south. It's southeast. It'll go east, southeast, and then south if the storm goes to our west. But Cameron, you're just about to get an eye and a potential landfall here as this thing comes on into Louisiana. And of course, this area is seeing a tremendous amount of water. It's nighttime. I can't even imagine the folks that stood behind what they're going through right now, especially with these winds up over 110 miles per hour. And that's just one anemometer. Right, Steph? We always talk about that on MHQ, how you've got one anemometer, but that doesn't necessarily reflect everything that's going on. And granted, that's more for convective storms that you miss the max gust, but still, you don't always necessarily get the max gust, even in a hurricane either.
Yeah. And, I want to talk to him about landfall, just so, I had a conversation with Dr. Rick Nab of what do you consider the actual eye wall? And people on social media found it very interesting. And so I want to talk about these little nuances, Jim. Landfall is when the center of the eye passes over land. It's not when a little bit of the eye gets in it. It is the actual dead center of the storm. And so that's just academia. But since we are in this, I would also like, to get some education out there too. So it's that center coming across. Unfortunately, here in Lake Charles, we have worst case scenario of being in the eye wall for the entire time. It will last for hours. It will be devastating. It's already a historic storm. We've never had a Cat 4 make landfall in this part of Louisiana. We're back after this break. This is epic.
You're watching America's most trusted TV news network.
We've got a severe weather threat.
We are live on the ground.
Right now, it's coming down.
The Weather Channel.
Currently in our area, 80 degrees under fair skies. Tonight, generally clear. Low 70. Winds south at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Thursday, mainly sunny. High 94. Winds south at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Thursday night, clear skies. Low 70. Winds south-southeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Here's our 7-day outlook.
And Lake Charles now gusting to 75 miles an hour. These are hurricane strength winds here into Lake Charles. Down towards Cameron, we have had some reports of gusting 101, 110, and that is where that eye wall is coming in. Our conditions have been consistently going downhill. By the way, behind me, the Calcasieu River. Right now, we're actually getting a little break in the visibility, and I do see that water coming up. There's still plenty of beach. I'm trying to guesstimate, how many feet we have, but it is plenty. So I'm not concerned about the water at this moment, but 7.2 feet. Thank you. My weather producer back at work, I believe that's Jessica Arnaldi, saying that it is now of 7.2 feet. The record is 14. It's forecast to go to 15.6. And for some perspective, Rita was at 9.43 feet. And we are not in the worst of it yet, okay? So this is really the beginning of things to get bad before they get even worse than that and before they get even more awful, because we're going to be in the eye wall for several hours, it seems. Now, these systems, they do wiggle and wobble a little bit. And that can make a huge difference in if, you get tremendous damage or not. All right, that's a big gust right there. That's a big one right there. And that's probably the biggest one we've had so far. I have had a few that have kind of blown me over, but that was definitely the biggest gust we've had so far. Now, mind you, when we get consistent hurricane force winds, it will turn impossible to stand out here. It'll just be absolutely impossible. A little break in the rain right now, but I know that that's going to continue as we could have 8 to 12 inches of rain here. And we're going to see even 5 to 8 for those of you. Do you live in northern Louisiana? Do you live in Arkansas? Do you live in Missouri? This is coming all the way up to you and over into places like Kentucky and then eventually into the mid-Atlantic. This is not just a coastal storm, though I know we are focused on that because that's where we are seeing it right now. So your heavy rainfall, your rainfall forecast into Louisiana, there's always going to be those outliers, those overachievers, okay? And those overachievers are going to be jaw-dropping. Look at the rainfall all the way up into Little Rock, 5 to 8 inches of rain, and notice the cone is on there. And yes, you're going to see that heavy rain within the cone, but look over, to the east of Lake Charles, heavy rain outside of the cone. And so this is, something we have to look for because tropical storm force winds extend out some 200 miles from either side of the center. Hurricane force winds out, about 60, 70 miles from the center. So the fact that, there we go, they just keep getting bigger and bigger. This one I have to brace myself for. And what it feels like, the rain is hitting so hard that it legitimately feels like rock. I mean, it stings your face, it stings your skin, anything that you have exposed. It really hurts, okay? Not enough where I need to come in, but just so you can get an idea of like little pebbles hitting you, or maybe little needles hitting you. That's what this feels like. And again, we've gusted up to 75. All right, I'm just getting a report in from Matt Jones, our weather producer, and I want to give a shout out to our entire team and give you their names because I'm just the face representing a massive team of people at the Weather Channel that are making this happen right now. 116 is what Matt Jones just told me they gusted to at Cameron, Louisiana. And I remember we can pull up the satellite. Maybe we can get the infrared, Jonesy, up to show that eye wall, or the radar perhaps. The radar, whatever is easiest for you to pull up. That radar will show that eye wall going through Cameron. And I was talking with Dr. Knapp earlier about that eye wall. And, it's not just that thin area right around the eye. There is some thickness to it. And so that eye wall is what is going to give you the worst weather. There's your look at your satellite coming in. You see it's coming ashore. Remember, landfall is when that center of circulation crosses land. And then if we can pull up that radar, it'd be great to see where that eye wall is right now and what we're experiencing here, because we are not near that eye wall. It's going to be a couple hours until we get that eye wall. And heavy rain is going to continue with this, and it will take several hours. There we go. All right, so thank you, Jones, so much for that. You see Lake Charles. We are not in that eye wall yet, but it's passed through Cameron. And Jim, it looks like Cameron is probably having the worst wind they've experienced. We've seen those numbers go up. I don't know if you heard me. Jonesy was just telling me 116 gusts we had reported, but they're about to go into that eye in Cameron.
Right. Yeah, I just tweeted about that very thing, Steph, so you're absolutely right. Looks like they're going to get into it. Do we get a landfall at Cameron, or is it Holly Beach off to the west? It's all about the jog. This thing is still jogging as it comes ashore. But we're obviously seeing the wind pick up through here. During your shot, I don't know if you saw this, Steph, but behind off in the distance, you can see the transformers tripping. So again, power outages now. I just saw last report, 65,000 or greater in Louisiana alone. So they're going up really at about an exponential rate right now as we get into this eye wall. So all of Cameron Parish, it's coming into Calcasieu Parish. We've probably got sporadic power outages already up in Beauregard Parish as well, even though they haven't gotten into some of the worst of this yet. But it's all going to go downhill from south to north, all along the Texas-Louisiana line. Tremendous amounts of timber in through here. I can't even imagine the amount of water that's sitting down in that low Cameron Parish down along coastal Louisiana right now. Wind and waves just absolutely battering this area. And then, of course, once you get into the eye, especially around Cameron and in the parish, winds are going to come around from the other side. So for some unbelievable reason, you still have power down there. Guess what? It's not over when it goes calm. You're at the halfway point in the game. You're at halftime. All right. So big time issues down there. All right, Steph. Again, back to you as you continue to get hammered on the north side here of the Golden Nugget.
Yeah. And Jim, we just got a gust in Lake Charles, 81. We are now gusting to 81 in Lake Charles, and you see how we've gone from 72 to 74 to 81, and it's only going to go up from there. We will keep you as long as we can here, and as long as it's safe to do so, we'll continue to be live.
All right, guys, again, coming at you live in front of the LeBaire Casino here. We're getting tremendous wind, especially off, away from the parking lot, away from really where I could give my cameraman enough protection, but you can certainly see it going on behind me here. We've had wind gusts in the Lake Charles area up to 90 miles per hour, okay? Airport hasn't been that high. They're going to get higher because they're on the south side. We've got a weather station certainly in and around Lake Charles that we can watch and look at. We've had winds there over 70 miles per hour as well. So everything is up now into this hurricane range and higher. Okay, so we're getting Cat 1, Cat 2 gusts, and certainly the biggest gust that we've seen down in Cameron, 116 miles per hour. That's a Cat 3 gust there in Cameron, Louisiana, where they're just about to get in the eye. You can see that on the radar. All right, so do we get a landfall in Cameron, or is it going to be to the west at Holly Beach? Because remember, this thing's still doing a little jog, and of course Holly Beach is off to the west there, and they could easily get it as well. But remember, it's got to be the center of that eye that comes across that point for it to be an official landfall, and that's certainly something that's coming up very, very shortly here, and the Hurricane Center puts that out. They'll tell you when you get a landfall point through here. The big question is here for Lake Charles, do we get another jog to the west and keep us in the eye wall? Okay, so northern eye wall comes in, then eastern eye wall, but do we get enough of a jog where we may even get in the eye a little bit here in Lake Charles? That's absolutely a possibility, but the water continues to pile up in many of the rivers in through here. Now remember too, the rain that's coming down is trying to get out into the Gulf of Mexico. That's the low point, right? So that's filling up as you're seeing the wind push the water back up the river. So that's adding to the water rise that's coming up and through here. All right, Steph, you've had the shot of the night on the backside of the Golden Nugget there. Let's talk about that and what you're seeing just really in the past. We've had, what, a 5-minute break from you. What have you seen change? Because things can change quick.
Okay, yeah, I mean, here's the thing, Jim. The wind has been getting consistently worse. There's more and more times where I'm getting kind of thrown off balance type of a thing. The water behind me here, the Calcasieu River, it's coming up. We still have plenty of beach here, so I'm not concerned about the surge at this moment. But we've been getting rain nonstop here. You see how we get a little bit of a breather, and then it's, hold on to your hat. Literally, quite literally, hold on to your hat. I want to give you some numbers here. Cameron, Louisiana, where the eye wall, by the way, landfall is imminent, and it's the center of circulation at landfall. 114 at Cameron. We've had 81 here, a gust. And by the way, hurricane force is 74 miles an hour. Some numbers for you for power outages. Almost 70,000 in Louisiana with that power. Texas at 13,000 with that power. You see how it kicks up like this? Jim, I don't know if you can actually see my shot or not, but I got a breather for 2 seconds, and then you get some very strong gusts and consistent stuff here. I mean, we have no shelter where I'm located. I mean, it's literally coming right down the boardwalk, right off the water. My crew, however, is elevated, and my photog has no rain gear on. That's how protected he is right now. And so it's really a different thing. And what's amazing is I'm on the backside of our hotels. You're on the flip side. And so I just want to let everyone know the conditions at their home, everyone is going to be a little different and see things a little differently.
No, Steph, I wanted to ask you the true test of when you're in that eye walls. Not only does the wind blow you around a little bit, but the rain actually hurts when it hits your face. Are you at the rain hurting your face yet issue? By the way, we just got 8.4 feet
I am.
At Cameron for storm surge. You are, okay.
Wow. Yeah, I am at that stage, Jim. Jim, it's been like that, I would say, for at least an hour, where, I don't know how you describe it, I try to say it feels like someone's throwing pebbles at you, or perhaps needles into your face. But Jim, as I'm watching the satellite come in, we don't have landfall yet, because it has to be that center of circulation. But Jim, things are just going to continue to get worse for us here, Lake Charles, Sulphur, and inland, Jim. We can't forget about people that live in the northern parishes, or even Arkansas for that matter.
Got to talk about that. We've been hitting it very hard for the last several days. Essentially, anybody who's in the cone, that's kind of a nice little look at maybe where power outages could be. All right, especially the western flank of that, where we know this thing is still going to be a Cat 1 going into Shreveport, and then northeast of that, wind down, maybe even have a circulation center left over when it enters Kentucky, for goodness sake. And there's really some really incredible things that go on with the mid-latitudes as they start to take in this system, and it goes what we call extratropical. So it becomes a strong low pressure system in the mid-latitudes. And you can actually see the winds ramp up from there. So I'm worried about that once we get to the mid-Atlantic. So Virginia, North Carolina, maybe even southern Pennsylvania, keep an eye on this thing.
So we've had winds officially gusting here to 81 miles an hour. Down into Cameron around 121 is what the winds have been gusting to. And by the way, landfall is imminent. It looks like it'll be in Cameron when that center circulation goes over. We are not near that eye wall yet. I mean, yes, it's getting closer to us, but we are still outside of the strongest winds. And this is what it looks like. And you can see you really at times have to brace yourself when those gusts come. I have absolutely no protection right now. The Calcasieu River, that one got me good there. The Calcasieu River behind me, hard to even turn and look at it. You know, it's not coming up yet. So that's the good news for us here. Say it one more time, Joe. I couldn't hear you. 8.3 feet, Brittany. Thank you. That is the river now up to 8.3 feet, and it is steadily increasing. Do we have landfall? Is that what you guys are telling me? Sorry, it's a little hard to hear out here, as you can imagine. Wow. It's a workout to stand out in this right now. Whew. Okay, so what I was trying to tell you guys is I have no protection, so it is just that wind coming right down this boardwalk, right off the Calcasieu River. Nothing to stop it. You know, we don't have loads of friction because we don't have buildings, we don't have trees, and so that's why it is consistent, and it is going to continue to get worse before it gets better. And unfortunately for Lake Charles, we could end up in that eye wall for the entire time, not getting any break in the eye. But what you need to be prepared for are winds like this on the outskirts, even if you don't go through the eye wall. Remember, tropical storm force winds are extending out 200 from miles from either side. From either side of the storm. Oh boy. So I anticipate more gusts like that to continue as we near this eye wall. I want to check in with Mark Elliott and find out where we are, because I know that landfall was imminent. Cameron was getting into the eye. And Mark, maybe you can give us an update, show us the radar and where we are with landfall. Of course, the National Hurricane Center will make that official call, but we can certainly have a look at it.
Absolutely. We are getting closer by the second. Calcasieu Pass just gusted to 127 miles per hour. This is a significant event. This is the satellite view, and what we're waiting on for landfall is the center of the center, okay? So the middle of that eye crossing over land. The satellite itself is tilted just a little bit, so you're getting a little bit of a skewed perspective. Changing this to the radar, you can see that we're not quite there. We're almost to the point where the center of the eye is is crossing over to land. Another view of this, getting a little bit closer in. Cameron is now calming, right? You're getting into that center. You're not yet into the center of the center. That Cameron and northbound through Jennings, through State Route 90, underneath that extreme wind warning, that's a product that should tell you to shelter as if it is a tornado coming through, because that's the kind of wind that we are seeing in that eye wall. Let me turn this on its side just a little bit, Steph, and you can see another view. Those tall clouds are marching inland, and we are just about at the point where the center of the eye moves in. I think we need a couple more minutes. We're not there quite yet.
I think you've tossed it to me. I'm sorry. I was just getting a little knocked around there. And if you saw that radar, we're basically outside of still that eye wall, which was pretty thick. And Mark, I was talking with Dr. Nav earlier about what exactly defines the eye wall.
Yeah.
It's not just right around the eye. It's a little thick, and we are still outside of it, and this is what our winds look like. And we still have a little bit of time. There's that extreme high wind warning, and that's essentially like a tornado coming through. They put those out, Mark, you know, when you're expecting those winds over 100 miles an hour. And this thing is just like going to be a massive tornado for some people.
Yeah, it's a relatively new product because in the past they would just put out a tornado warning, but it just didn't make sense, right? It's not actually a tornado. It lasts for hours. It doesn't describe what's actually occurring. There are some tornado warnings right now in some of those outer areas. You get all the way out here towards Basile, towards Lafayette, towards New Iberia, all under tornado warnings for fast-moving, spin-up tropical tornadoes. But what we're watching here in that original question from Steph, what is actually the eye wall? Technically, it is that border right between, right as you exit the eye and the clearing and go back into that wall of clouds, that, you know, stadium effect of the eye, but it does have a thickness. It's not what you're in Lake Charles yet. Lake Charles, you're in the bands, you're in the heavy rain, you're not quite into that eye wall. It's not exactly as, you know, that just a, you know, paper thin. Think about walls of a building, there's some thickness to it. The eye wall is considered to have some thickness as well. So you're through that eye wall, through the northern eye wall in Cameron, about to get into the eye and the calming, and then landfall, Stephanie, will take place after the center of the eye moves in.
All right, so Cameron, Louisiana, gusted to 127. 127 gusts. That is tremendous. Okay? I'm really just trying to take deep breaths sometimes to get through those gusts. But here's the thing. These winds are going to continue to push into us, all right? And it's going to get, you think this is bad, it's going to get twice as bad once we get in that eye wall. We're going to be in it for quite some time. So we'll stay live for you here. And remember, this is just not a Lake Charles thing. I'm in Lake Charles. But we're here for all of you. From Baton Rouge to Shreveport to Sulphur to Memphis to Little Rock and beyond. As this tracks all the way to the Mid-Atlantic, we've got you covered the entire way. This is epic!
You're watching America's most trusted TV news network,
We've got a severe weather threat. We are live on the ground.
Right now, it's coming down.
the Weather Channel.
Currently in our area, 79 degrees under clear skies. Tonight, generally clear. Low 70. Winds south at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Thursday, mainly sunny. High 94. Winds south at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Thursday night, clear skies. Low 70. Winds south-southeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Here's our 7-day outlook.
We just lost power. We just lost power. All right, guys, coming back at you. The eye wall starting to come in to the Lake Charles area. Just lost power. Got a report of over 100-mile-an-hour wind gust at the airport there. Not surprising, certainly given what we've got with these winds down through here. So no power as far as the eye can see here. We had all sorts of parking lot lights on. We had lights going down the road to L'Auberge. Now we are out of power everywhere as far as the eye can see. Now, I know there are generators on in the hotel. I'm trying to look around and see if any of those have kicked on yet, and they have not. But we'll see. We'll see in time. Either way, that's the deal. Remember, we're under that extreme wind warning. So now the worst of the weather coming in. Wind gusts over 120 miles per hour. We had 127 earlier on down toward Cameron. Now, Steph, just about to get a landfall there near Cameron, Louisiana. Did you lose the power at the same time we did?
Say it one more time, Jim. I think you asked me if I lost power. A little hard to hear you, but no, we have not lost power yet at our hotel. And what's interesting is Jim and I are just neighboring hotels. We're literally right next to each other in different hotels, and it's managed to stay on, Jim, for us here. And so, again, this storm will be affecting everyone a little differently. The airport is gusting to 97 miles an hour. 97 miles an hour. Yeah, Jim, can you see our lights are still on? I mean, forget this time. This is ridiculous. We're going half full, guys.
104 now at Lake Charles.
Here in Lake Charles. Yep, and we're not even in the eye wall, guys. So the fact that we're 104 and not in the eye wall just tells you how bad it's about to get. And that water's not coming up because of our wind direction is actually pushing the water out. Okay, it's pushing it out. So it is yet to really push it up and change that direction. But landfall is imminent. Along the coast here, the National Hurricane Center makes the call, but we can show you what the winds will be like as they come through. Again, remember, Cameron gusting 127. We're gusting over 100 already here. And we're going to get what they had in Cameron. Obviously, in Cameron, they're right off the water. They'll probably be a little bit higher there. Probably be a little bit higher than what we get, but you could still get very strong gusts here. This is a major hurricane about to make landfall. Sorry, I just heard some sounds. It was just odd. So I just wanted to take a look around. But we have never had a Category 4 make landfall in this part of Louisiana. In fact, there's only been 3 known Category 4s to make landfall. Wow!
Absolutely. It is tough out there. Stephanie's doing her best.
Maybe you can talk about where it is right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Stephanie's doing her best to stand up in that wind. I've got a zoomed in product for you here. This is the radar out of Lake Charles looking at the center of our storm. This is Laura coming in right now. And gosh, it is just about to landfall. I mean, this is moments away, just outside of Cameron. Again, what we're waiting for is the center of the center. Does that mean we're done? Absolutely not. That is just midway for Cameron, and it's just beginning up the road where Stephanie was just standing and getting battered around is in Lake Charles. This is the northern edge of that eye wall and about to come, through the radar site. That's right here, and then you've got a little bit more to go for Lake Charles. So, gosh, it could take another hour or so before the winds actually peak in Lake Charles. And this is a problem because there's a little bit of a jog off to the side, which means Lake Charles may stay in that, in that eye wall the entire time, not get a break for the eye at all. Now, we want to go over to Beaumont now. Beaumont is also seeing the winds increasing. Our own Reynolds Wolf is there. Reynolds, gosh, this is just an unbelievable event for the Louisiana coastline right now.
Absolutely, but what's terrifying is this really doesn't come as a surprise to us. We expected all this to happen, and sure enough, it's unfolding as we speak. One big issue that we're going to have this evening, too, we have a bevy of tornado warnings which could be popping up across the landscape. When you have landfalling systems, as you know very well, folks, it's not out of the question to have tornadoes. And the issue that you have at nighttime, obviously, you can't see them. And when they do form, they're usually relatively small, but they can still be very dangerous. We saw that with the Isaias across much of the Tar Heel state of North Carolina, so folks, you've got to be prepared. Be in your safe place. And I'll tell you what, if you've got to go to, say, like a closet under a stairwell, make sure that you could crank up the Weather Channel. We'll give you the very latest. Let's send it right back to Mark immediately in the studio.
Yeah, and Reynolds, you're talking about those tornado warnings, so I was putting them up on the screen for you. Let's talk about that right now. We have Acadia, Lafayette, and Vermilion parishes all underneath a tornado warning. That is outside of the extreme wind warning. The extreme wind warning, as I back up here for just a second, is all of this area. That's for the eye wall. Outside of that eye wall, we have the tornado warning for you. This is still a real threat. Fast-moving, spin-up tornadoes that will give you very little lead time. You're seeing several of those in here, right? This is the motion of those raindrops, where the blue and the greens meet up. We have that potential for tornadic activity, and that's why those warnings have been issued. But again, we are moments away from landfall at this point. You see the track there. The center is working its way towards the Louisiana coastline. Laura, a major hurricane knocking on the doorstep of landfall, and so many of you will feel impacts over the next couple of days. We'll be right back.
Hello, America. Welcome back to continued coverage here on the Weather Channel. I'm meteorologist Reynolds Wolf, and tonight it is all about Hurricane Laura all the time. Landfall is imminent. Now, we've got crews scattered around much of the Gulf Coast, of course, in much of Louisiana and here in the state of Texas. Now, Jim Cantore and Stephanie Abrams, if you've been watching our coverage, you know very well they are in Lake Charles. They've been outside braving the elements, but right now, conditions too dangerous. They've actually moved inside. We have some images that you can see. The camera crews are well protected, and now Stephanie and Jim are doing the same. They've been seeking shelter. We do practice when we preach here on the Weather Channel, and we've got full team coverage for you. Of course, out in the field, great people behind the camera in our control rooms, in the newsrooms, giving you the information that is critical, that is crucial to you, your friends, and your family as we go on through. No surprises what we've seen. We expected this to happen, but I'll tell you, still some of the numbers are staggering. You hear the numbers? I'll tell you. And the landfall at this point, it is imminent. It is going to be coming on shore again, a major hurricane. We're talking a Category 4, history in the making as it makes its way on shore. And remember, folks, the story does not end right at the water's edge. It's going to continue. And with fast momentum, this system could be making its way all the way inland to places like, get this, Shreveport, Louisiana, well inland, but still with the power of a Category 1 hurricane. Now, with the very latest for expert analysis, let's bring Mark Elliott for a moment. Mark, this is an absolute beast. Hard to believe that just a few days ago, this thing was off just the tip of Cuba. We have landfall. Let's go to Mark right now. We have it confirmed. We have got it confirmed to this hour. Landfall, Hurricane Laura, moving on shore. Mark.
As of the 1 a.m. advisory, we have a landfall, makes landfall near Cameron, Louisiana, and all of the impacts that we were worried about are happening. Catastrophic storm surge, extreme winds, along with extreme wind warnings being issued. Flash flooding is happening. Tornadoes are potentially happening. There's been tornado warnings issued. It is all on the table right now. A very dangerous event. Please, shelter if you're still in here, as if there is a tornado coming through. That is the best advice that we can give you. Again, 1 a.m. official observation and official, update from the National Hurricane Center has put this as a landfall in Cameron, Louisiana, still 150 mile-per-hour winds. Let's look at this from a couple of different views here. We have our white line now crossing onto the coast. That is the Cameron area right there. Look at this. You can see just all the fury rotating around this eye, and that's with the Lake Charles area, still about 30 miles north of the center. You can see the views of Lake Charles on your screen right now, but the satellite is showing us, gosh, you are in it. You are in that mix, and only increasing from here for the Lake Charles area for the next few moments. Will you get a break? Will this part of the calm center of the eye actually get into Lake Charles? That's still a question. There's a little bit of a wiggle happening off to the west, which may prevent Lake Charles from ever getting into the calm. You may go directly from the northern eye wall to the eastern eye wall and stay in this mess for hours on end. That is a very frightening prospect. Shifting winds of just gargantuan numbers here. Again, Cameron gusting to 121 or so. Lake Charles gusting to 104. We've seen some 127s. Our own Jim Cantore is in Lake Charles right now. Jim, we are going to see these winds continue to increase for you now that landfall has happened outside of Cameron.
Yeah, and we're starting to get into that eye wall now, Mark. So with that, just before landfall, actually, it was really interesting. We lost power here. There was plenty of light to look behind us now, but now we've actually lost power. But remember, I've always been on this kind of protected side of La Berge. For some reason, we've always had some kind of northeast wind component that never has allowed us swinging around. But as you're talking about, if we get in that eastern eye wall, the winds have got to go south. All right, and that means they're going to come in from this direction. And they're going to come in hard. Do we get into the eye wall? That's a big question. Obviously, we'll wait and see because this thing still kind of wobbles. There's so much momentum and mass moving with this thing. It does wobble even after a little bit of landfall in through here. And sometimes that wobble makes all the difference in the world, Mark, as you know, getting in and out of the eye wall. It's kind of interesting. The rain seems to have subsided a hair for some, so maybe there's a little bit of a break before we really get into the hammering part of that eye wall. But we're obviously set. I got my cameraman back under everything. We'll come out here and give you what we can. But right now the winds, at least where I am, not super strong, only because I'm protected. We know we've gusted here in Lake Charles over 100 miles per hour, okay? And that's why we're seeing massive amounts of power outages. Now I think getting up around 100,000 customers just in Louisiana alone. We've had very high water, waiting for the water to come up at the Calcasieu River. We'll see what happens with that. That's forecast to go to 15.45 feet, which is almost, goodness gracious, it's nearly double the record that they set at about 9.5 feet. So that's pretty incredible there, Mark. Again, gusting over 100 miles per hour here, no power. At least where we are here at La Berge. We'll keep you posted. Let's go back to you in the studio as you continue to analyze this. A 1 o'clock landfall from what we're hearing from the Hurricane Center, 1 o'clock Central Time. Over to you.
Yeah, and you're right, Jim, that you are in a little pocket, and I mean a small pocket. Get ready for that rain to come right back in. What Jim was referencing, we had this band come through, and Jim and Stephanie were out there talking to us. They were inside some of this real heavy rain in here. There's a little bit of a window right in this zone that they are standing in at the moment, and then after that comes the meat of the northern eye wall. Once that comes in, the Lake Charles area is going to be in it for quite a while. Let's talk about where those winds are right now, because we're getting close to Lake Charles with the hurricane force winds. The tropical storm force winds now reaching all the way into portions of central Louisiana, 205 miles away from that center. This is a large storm in that way, and so that large amount of wind is moving the water. The storm surge potential is high, embedded tornadoes, tornado watch all the way until the morning. And so what you're looking at here is the actual motion of those raindrops. And since we're so close to the radar site, this is the radar site, we're getting a real good look at that eye wall at this point. Remember, the landfall happened outside of Cameron. Look at some of the winds just aloft as seen in the eye wall, anywhere between 130 to 160, a little bit off the deck, but really, Jim, not that far up. And so some heavy rain is going to push that all the way down. And Stephanie, you've been standing in that at times. Get ready. There's more of that wind on the way. The heavy rain is going to push that all the way down to the surface towards you.
And I can hear it. I can hear it howling up through the rafters up in through here. We're up 23 stories, not where we are, but certainly some of the building, and I can just hear it howling through there. So not surprising, Mark. So we're starting to get into some of the heavy rain you just talked about. So that brief break is now over. So here comes the rain again. And interestingly enough, too, like I said, right about the time of landfall, we got just enough wind, about 100 mile an hour in gust, to kick off the power in and around here. Mark, I want you to do me a favor, take a look at the river gauge. I want to see how this water is really supposed to be coming up pretty quickly here at the Calcasieu River. If you get a chance to do that, because obviously while I'm out here, I don't have any data, but that's another thing too, because now we're getting this maximum surge potential up here in toward Lake Charles. All right, so we got Steph back. I think she's moved position, got into a little bit of a safer position. Steph, talk to us. Where are you? Where'd you move?
Okay, Jim, so essentially I just walked up the stairs to be closer to my crew and closer to some protection. As I mentioned at the Weather Channel, it is safety first. It's always been like that, and standing out there right now, it's just not safe. We had a gust to 104, and we're nearing the eye wall. We're not even in it. And so you get a little low like this, but overall, the wind, I literally tried to walk down there, and sorry, I know I'm not in a light. That's my photog, I can tell, is like, I can step down a couple steps, I'm still fine right here. I'm good. Are you good? Okay. We want to make good TV for you guys, but we also want to be safe. I could tell my photog was saying he couldn't see me. He pulled out a cell phone light, was trying to light me with that, just so you know what's happening. So I just walked down a couple steps. But the problem is there's no protection down there. And so I tried to walk down there and, you know, kind of got pushed off to the side. And so we want to bring you the shot, but we want to do it safely. And so, Jim, the fact that there's no protection down there, just going to hang on the steps so you can still get the experience and still see it, but we're going to do it safely.
Hey, Steph, give me 1 second here. I'm just going to go put a helmet on. I'm around a lot of trees, and I really don't feel like getting wailed on in the head. So I'm just going to put a helmet on out here since I'm standing out here. So just take it for a second. I'll be right back out there with you, okay?
Okay, sure. You do that. So I'll just... We're fine. Everyone, we are fine. We are totally fine. Everything's okay, okay? Everything is fine here. So that's why we didn't want to stand far down on the stairs, okay? So everyone is 100% okay here. There is nothing to worry about with us. But look at that wind picking up, guys. Again, let me look at the radar here on my phone. I can get a look at the eye wall. We're inside, guys. We are inside. I promise you, we are inside. We are inside. We're fine. So, Jim, we just had, you know, a little debris come down here, but we're fine here. And we've scooted back, so everyone is fine and safe. And we're getting near that eye wall.
Yeah, and I can hear it, Steph. It's just roaring out here. Of course, it's pitch black. You can't see anything, but I can just absolutely hear it roaring. We're just in enough of a protected space here to not deal with the wind, but it'll be really interesting to see what happens, you know, when the eye goes to our west, okay? Do we get into that eastern eye wall? Do we get into those severe gusts? But I went and grabbed a helmet, too, because you and I have been out here enough. When we start smelling all the wood, we know there's like trees coming down everywhere being snapped. And of course, with 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts, they're flying through the air, and you can't see anything right now. There's no power. There's no nothing. So no sense in getting impaled by something out here in the head while this is all going on. But you can really hear the ferocity of this wind, especially higher up, which is typically where we get some of the stronger wind gusts in through here. And they are absolutely cranking. So again, guys, if you're just joining us this morning, we've had a landfall. Hurricane Center, 1 o'clock local time, Cameron, Louisiana. We had wind gusts over 125 miles per hour there. So, you know, deep into the Cat 3 area, certainly with what we've got with wind gusts, almost Cat 4. And no question, the worst of that is now to come for Lake Charles. We're just now on the outer fringes of that same part of the eye wall that's already moved through Cameron. The big question is, do we get the calm like Cameron? And that may or may not be the case. It all depends on potentially even a last-minute wiggle off to the east. And you'll know it if you're watching us, because you'll essentially see, if we still have cell, we could lose cell as well. But if we you know, can show you that, you'll see it calm down. You'll see it calm down everywhere. You'll even hear the noise be reduction if we get into the eye. It's kind of eerie, to be quite honest with you. There's just an incredible calm. I remember being an Ike back in 2008 with Steph, interestingly enough, in Galveston, when there was smoke from fires that got moved in with the eye. You could literally hear birds and even crickets. I mean, that's how calm and eerie it was. All right, so Steph, talk to me about, you know, you moved from the back to the front. Are you outside? Are you looking outside? Give us an idea of what you're seeing right now. Can you see any trees down at all?
So we cannot see trees down. So what we've done, Jim, is we're in a solid concrete structure. And lights came back on. The lights were going on and off. We have actually tucked back into our concrete structure. You can see our shot there. We're all back in the corner. And I know it's tough to see now because we really don't have light. We're trying to get that for you guys, but of course, safety first. And let's see what's happening here. We have some guys that are, looks like they're trying to do a little exploring there. But we are tucked back. Actually, I can't feel any wind right now. That's how tucked back I am into the corner. I mean, literally zero wind where I am located here in the corner. We can give you a little shot here. We're back in a corner here in this huge concrete building, and you see this is where I was going down the stairs and whatnot. But we're just going to stay tucked back here so that everyone can be safe. And literally I'm wind free. I mean, you can see nothing's even blowing on my face or anything. I mean, we are so tucked back here in this corner. So Jim, that's where we are. We're tucked back in this concrete corner, but we're nearing that eye wall, so it's going to get a lot worse here. And our power went out and came back on. I do know they had generators, so I don't know if perhaps a generator, powered up, and that's why we got our power back here. But we're watching. Even look at the roof of that little hamburger hut, which is where we were at, and look at the shaking of those lamps. Those are going to go at some point. Look at that wind. Wow. All right, you can hear stuff breaking, which is what we anticipated. All right, I can hear Jim say the wind's coming around, but we are definitely getting into that eye wall. We're going to have this for a while. And this is when the damage, Jim, this is when the damage is really going to start happening right now.
Yeah, and that's what people, this is why we have the extreme wind warning that's out. Okay, this is the Weather Service saying, look, you essentially got the wind equivalent of a tornado that's going to move through, and they've extended this to 3 a.m. Local time. So until 3 a.m. that extensive wind warning. So we'll go through this eye wall here in Lake Charles, and that does include us here and what we're going to get in terms of the wind. Water's coming up, guys, as we speak. We got rainwater coming down that's trying to get down to the Gulf of Mexico. Of course, at the same time, we're getting that push. We're getting that push with the eastern part of the eye wall right now. So we've had a landfall. Again, guys, 1 o'clock from the National Hurricane Center talking about Cameron in Louisiana. Interesting enough, Jonesy just told me they're actually gusting to 39 miles per hour in the eye, which I think is really interesting. So maybe not a clean eye here. This could be good. This could be a sign of weakening, but still, we got a long night ahead of us. This is a powerful hurricane.
What did you say? This is epic.
You're watching America's most trusted TV news network.
We've got a severe weather threat.
We are live on the ground.
Right now, it's coming down.
The Weather Channel.
Currently in our area, 79 degrees under fair skies. Overnight, mostly clear, low 70. Winds south-southwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Thursday, a mainly sunny sky. High 93. Winds south at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Thursday night, a mostly clear sky. Low 69. Winds south-southeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Here's our 7-day outlook.
And welcome back into the Weather Channel here. Look, we are not even in the eye wall. I just looked at my radar. We're getting near it, but we are not in the eye wall. Can you believe that? And look at this wind and the wind-driven rain here. It is no longer safe to be in the elements, so our entire crew, I can't believe these guys are going out there. This is like, are you guys, come on. There's been a ton of glass. You guys, seriously. Oh, okay, he's a GM, okay. All right, nothing. All right, Jim, sorry, that was the general manager looking at the damage. Jim, if you can hear me.
I have no comm. I don't know if I'm on or not.
I see you're still outside.
Lake Charles now.
we go.
we
We'll
are
let Jim
definitely
talk.
getting into the eye wall. No question about that. Winds are getting stronger. They're also changing direction. They're changing direction as well, and coming around a little bit more out of the east versus the east-northeast, which has been so prevalent in through here. But very, very heavy rain, howling winds, gusty winds continue in this area here, guys. Power's been out now for about 30 minutes, and I can't even tell you what's going on back there. All I can do is hear it. And let's just listen to the wind, just incredibly ferocious here, right behind me here. So you can see it kind of sweeping on by. The building is causing the wind to do weird things. I'm in a spot here where I can actually stand up, but occasionally we do get some gusts that kind of rush under this overhang, which is where I have most of my crew protected here this evening. So yeah, we're into this. And you know, now we're at the mercy of whatever this eye wall is going to do as it comes up yet. It's good, believe it or not, it's going to get worse. We know that we've had gusts over 120 miles per hour down at Cameron. We know we've had gusts now almost 110 miles an hour in Lake Charles as well. There is power loss everywhere here as a result of that. One of the things I can't tell you is I don't know how high the water is. Okay, do we have large amounts of water that have piled up in this area? That's entirely possible. I just don't have any data with me right now. We'll let Mark deal with that back in the studio where he actually can access that data. But it is, you know, just an eerie quiet. It's amazing when you go from, okay, I can kind of see, I can get perspective what's going on out along the drive and into the parking lot, but you lose the lights and then you lose them inside the hotel. You really can't see anything here. Nothing. The only chance we have to see something is if we get in the eye. Do we get in the eye to a point where it's calm enough to potentially even see the sky? You know, the moon's out. Do we get some moonlight down through here? We're going to just have to wait and see. That eye could just be to our west, okay? It's all depending on those last-minute wobbles. Either way, power is out. We've got tropical storm force wind gusts into southeast Texas. It's been that way for hours. We've got power loss there, too. We've also got them into southwest Louisiana, heading up towards Shreveport. It's going to be a rough early morning for you guys, so batten down the hatches. Here it comes. All right, Steph, Mark, why don't you take it?
All right, Jim, you know, just looking at the radar, I don't know if you can hear me. We are in the eye wall right now, and we're going to get that eye. It looks like we will get that eye. So we're going to stay up. We shockingly still have power here, perhaps generators kicked in. Again, we are tucked back in, so we're safe. We are not at any chance of getting that debris to sweep in where we're located. And when the eye happens, we will be able to go out. And by the way, it looks like a pretty clean eye. What does that mean? You can have dirty eyes where there's some clouds and a little bit of rain, but I got to say, this eye looks pretty clean. If we are lucky, we will see stars. We could see stars. That's how you're going from this. Stay with us, because we're going to go from this to seeing stars. It's unbelievable. It'll be unbelievable. So make sure you stay with us here as we're getting hit really hard right now. We're seeing damage. We've seen windows getting blown out right where we're located. There have been reports of some trees down, but I don't have any other reports that I can give you at this time, but I guarantee you damage is being done. So we are in the eye wall. So I am in Lake Charles, Louisiana. As you look at that radar, Cameron right now is in the eye, and it is calm. But then you have to deal with the back side of that eye wall where your winds are going to shift around. Our winds right now coming out of the east, basically a due east wind on the north side of a storm. But look what happened. Everything's going to shift. Once it pulls north, we will get a west wind. So watch where the wind is going right now on your screen, okay? It's going from right to left. You see that? Right to left. We'll get the calm of the eye. I really think we're going to get it here from what I can tell. Someone at work can tell me if they think otherwise. Since I'm in the field, it's, you know, a little tougher, obviously, to look at radar and whatnot. But then you will see when things switch around, that wind is going to go from left to right on your screen. So that, everything that's been loosened by this eye wall is then going to get tossed around even more with that second eye wall. Because right now, you know, it takes some time to loosen, to do that damage, to rip everything up. And then it's just going to get tossed and moved in the other direction. So here's a look at those winds. Again, we're gusting over 100 miles an hour here. I bet you were getting, I mean, 108 was the last we heard, but I got to tell you, that looks stronger than 108 if you ask me. Do you 128 here in Lake Charles? Wow, there you go. 128 at Lake Charles, sustained at 85. That is more like was like, there's no way this is 108. This has got to be way higher than that. We have about 30 seconds left. For these last 15 seconds, I just want you to hear the sound of a hurricane. Hear that roar that people talk about. So I'm going to be quiet and let you hear the sounds of Hurricane Laura.
There it is. It's just the one thing. We got it. We got it.
And I am coming to you again from Texas, right here in Beaumont. But you're seeing a shot from Lake Charles. You've got Stephanie Abrams and Jim Cantore that have been there. Jim is, again, seeking cover for the time being, but you're getting a shot, getting a taste of what they've been experiencing. Just the relentless fury of this system, which just a matter of days ago was just off the coast of Cuba. It built, it rolled. There was some conjecture that it was going to become a major hurricane, and that became the reality at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock this morning, came on shore with the fury, winds of 150 miles an hour, and Cameron, Louisiana. Now I've got the eye. It's making its way through Lake Charles. We practice what we preach at the Weather Channel. We want people to be safe, and sure enough, that's what we're doing right now. I can tell you, we do know that the winds are very strong. We know where it made landfall, but what is even more terrifying at times is what we do not know. We don't know the condition of things at the coast for the time being. Eventually, the sun is going to come up, then we have the revelation of fact of what exactly we're dealing with in terms of aftermath, and then another part of the story begins, and that is the recovery and the rebuild. But right now, we're dealing with the fury of this. We have winds, again, that continue to roar across. When you think about the landscape across much of Texas and Louisiana, well, and along the coastal plain, it's flat as can be. There's nothing that's going to stop. There's nothing that's going to harness, nothing that's going to impede the wind as it rips its way across the landscape. Now, earlier, you may have heard Stephanie and Jim refer to at times you can actually smell trees. I can tell you from experience, especially when it comes to landfalling tropical systems in an area where you have a lot of pine, you have a smell that is, it smells like Christmas. And what I'm talking about is these trees get splintered and you can smell the resin, you can smell the sap. And sure enough, it travels through the air, and it's one of those byproducts, one of those things that heightens the senses. Some other things you'll feel or hear a lot of times in the darkness, you'll hear the sounds of those trees. I can tell you right behind me where we happen to be, you've got a hotel. We had a transformer on the top that just exploded a short while ago. No power there. They do have power in the structure that we happen to be in, which is really mind-numbing, but I'm willing to bet that within the next 90 minutes, if not sooner, it's going to go down here too. In fact, by the time the sun does rise, the winds die down, millions of people are going to be waking up to that absence of power. But there are trucks that are waiting at the standby, some amazing crews that are going to work those long hours to get those supplies, that power that is so important, so critical to people that live here to make sense of it all and trying to get things back to normal. Another thing to think about with the system is we often compare a lot of the tropical entities that make their way to the shore. You'll think about roughly 3 years ago, you had Harvey, entirely different animal altogether. Came on shore with a lot of force, but you'll remember it dropped anchor near Houston. The water piled up, and we remember the scenes in places like Buffalo Bayou, all across much of southeast Texas. Now, this system, it is going to be a quick mover, but because its momentum is so robust at this time. Okay, wait, we're going to go back. Let's go back to Lake Charles if we can. And right now we've got Jim Cantore. Jim, I know you've taken some precautions. You now have a bit of extra protection, so to speak. Let's send it back to you, Jim.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Just trying to continue to, as this eye wall comes through, we just continue to get hammered here with winds over 100 miles an hour. Jonesy, I don't know if you've seen them increase since then, but give me the word. 128, okay, we've had 128 now at Lake Charles. More than likely pressure dropping rapidly here as we get, again, and go through this eye wall and get close to the center. It's all about the jog here and what we get. But the other thing, too, is the winds have started to come around a little bit more easterly here. But the howling, the smell of the timber, which is so plentiful here in western Louisiana and also into eastern Texas, we're going to lose a lot of this, unfortunately, just because of the wind energy. I mean, you got pine, which is a soft wood, and it snaps very quickly, especially in the kind of wind gusts that we're going to see. Guys, we are under an extreme wind warning. What does that mean? That's essentially a beefed up tornado warning over a large area, okay? We're talking about destructive winds for an extended period of time, and that's why it goes till 3 a.m. So these are a lot longer typically than what we get excuse me, with tornado warnings. Okay, those are 20 minutes. These can last 3 hours, and it's essentially takes you through the eye wall. So that is for destructive wind, the kind of destructive wind that you see with tornadoes. To me, it's also a tip to you that if you haven't lost power yet and you get in that warning, you're going to very, very soon. Okay, and you may even lose cell service as well, especially given the fact that we get these 120-mile-an-hour winds. So far, so good, guys, with the cell, especially with 128-mile-an-hour wind gust now at Lake Charles. Just incredible wind coming up this way. Again, a bona fide Cat 3, almost a Cat 4 with the wind here coming up in toward Lake Charles. The water's piling up. Don't go outside if we get in the eye, guys. We're not done yet. We still have to go through the bottom side of this and potentially here in Lake Charles, the eastern side of this. Over 100,000 without power and climbing rapidly in Louisiana alone. Hey guys, back here in Lake Charles in front of the LaBerge as we've lost power now. Not surprising because winds have been gusting over 100 miles an hour now up here for the last hour. We maxed out about 128, now down to 109 with the gust, but still the damage is done. The water's being pushed and the water is rising in many, many areas. So the full fruition, the full force of this thing coming into the Lake Charles area and obviously all across southwest Louisiana. If you're just joining us this morning, again, Cameron, Louisiana was landfall officially at 1 o'clock local time. The system continues to pull north. Now the big question for us here in Lake Charles is, do we get a jog to the west to give us the eastern eye wall, or does it stay on path where we actually get into the eye a little bit here in Lake Charles? But regardless of where that happens, don't be fooled. If you've still got power and you are watching us, you still got to go through the other side of the storm. All right, a lot of us have had to retreat and get some technical issues taken care of. My partner Stephanie Abrams is one of those. Steph, you just had to retreat and get inside. Tell us what's going on over there. Just about a 10-minute walk from me in the Golden Nugget.
Yeah, literally a 10-minute walk. So Jim, we're in the back of the building with no protection whatsoever. So we were getting the brunt. Lake Charles gusted to 128, okay? 120. Do you hear that whistling? So I'm gonna explain what that is coming up. Gusted to 128, windows were shattering, we were not comfortable. So what we did was we tucked back in. Then what happened was it got too bad, they've locked the doors, and we're now inside the casino. And that is the wind whistling through the building. And I'm looking right now at the radar. We are in the eye wall. This is the worst part of it, and we're about to get in that eye. I sure hope so, and we don't stay in that eastern eye wall. I think we're gonna get into part of the eye here. It's going to be a close one. If we do get into the eye, we will then go back outside. But right now, the fact that there's debris flying everywhere, it is not safe for us to be out there. So we're going to stay inside. In fact, they locked those doors so no one can even get out there. And so we'll stay in here, watch the radar, stay safe, and then Jim, if we get in that eye, it's going to be real close here. We might be kind of half in, half out in Lake Charles.
Yep. Yes, it is going to be close. But right now we're in the eye wall, Steph. You can see the debris just flying around. Thank God it's only leaves. But man, I'm telling you, the other thing too about the eye, there's little swirls and little vortices in the eye. And they enhance the wind gusts and obviously the potential of the damage there. And that's what's coming in and on top of us right now. Max gust 128 for Lake Charles. We've been over 100 for the last hour, maybe even longer than that. I can't even remember. But either way, the damage is done. Power is out and through here enough so, a lot of us are at least in a position to broadcast to you where we can retreat quickly, keep our camera crew and our crew as safe as possible. Steph decided to go inside, and that's fine. That's a great idea, and I might have to do the same here before not too long. So the wind, I'm telling you guys, you can hear the wind. You can actually hear the wind actually howling in through here. I'm going to just step in a little bit to a little bit more comfort because it's still going to come through this overhang. Either way you slice it. But oof, what a storm! Going through a Category 4 hurricane here, and even 30 miles inland from where it made landfall, it still has some of the same ferocity that it met the coast with. What we can't see, certainly because of power outages and the time that this came in, is what's happening to the water. We know that we're maximizing the storm surge in many of these areas. And remember, we're going to hold it up in that eastern eye wall because the wind is going to keep pushing it inland. Now that it's come in, it's going to be held up and it's not going to be able to go out. The other thing, too, is remember the fact that we have all this rainwater coming down. So with the rainwater coming down, that's trying to get back out of the Gulf of Mexico, but that's adding to the component and making the water potentially even higher. So, guys, I hope you heeded the warnings because this is exactly what we thought we would get. We just won't know until first light tomorrow just how extensive the damage is and what people here in Lake Charles have been going through. And Steph, if it's anything like what we're getting out and through here, it's not pleasant. We just happen to be lucky enough to be on high ground right now. Others, not as fortunate. Over to you, Steph.
And have a little protection too, right, Jim? I mean, you still have a little bit of protection. You can hear that whistling of the wind from the backside where we were for all those hours with no protection, just hammering. I mean, it wouldn't be safe for anyone to be out there no matter what you were wearing. So Jim does have a little protection from his building. I just want to give that as an FYI because he is standing out in it. And you might have seen my reaction. Another window broke here. I don't know if it broke just because of the winds or if there was debris that hit it, but that's why we are inside because there is debris. We saw that flying around and some of these windows can break. And do you hear how loud that is? How eerie is that? That is what a Category 4 eyewall sounds like inside a building. It sounds more like a freight train outside. You get more of that whistling sound as you come inside, and wind gusts have been up to 128 miles an hour, and it's going to be a close call for us in the eye. And you got to stay tuned to find out, do we make it into the eye or do we stay in that eastern eye wall? And then, by the way, regardless, we're going to have to go through the backside of the system, which is going to be just as strong. And now that we have debris weakened and has been flying around, that's going to pick that up and toss it around as well. So things will be getting worse as the night, we might be in the morning hours at this point. I don't even know what time it is, to be honest with you. As we head through the morning hours, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And it might get better for a minute if you get in that eye, but then it's going to get really bad again for that second eye wall. It's not like that other eye wall is going to be all that, it's not going to be weaker. The eye wall is that strongest part. And then if you live in places like Shreveport, Little Rock, Memphis, this is all headed your way. Obviously, its interaction with land is going to slow it down. It's going to tear it apart and whatnot. But it is still, when you have a Cat 4 that's just buzzsawing through, it takes time for that to come down, for it to wind down. This is epic.
You're watching America's most trusted TV news network.
We've got a severe weather threat.
We are live on the ground. Right now, it's coming down.
The Weather Channel.
Currently in our area, 78 degrees under clear skies. Overnight, mostly clear, low 70, winds south-southwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Thursday, a mainly sunny sky, high 93, winds south at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Thursday night, a mostly clear sky, low 69, winds south-southeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Here's our 7-day outlook.
Hello, America. Welcome back to continued coverage of Hurricane Laura. You're taking a look at a live image in Lake Charles. That's right. You're watching the storm cam. And, well, one of the byproducts you often have from a landfalling hurricane, you have rising water, and that is what we're seeing. Exhibit A in Lake Charles. And this is just a small sample we're going to be seeing across much of the region that could be affecting millions of people, not only in Louisiana, but even into parts of Texas. Welcome back, everyone. I'm meteorologist Reynolds Wolf Cooney from Beaumont, Texas. Beaumont, Texas, for the time being, dealing with occasional bouts of wind and some rain that has been kind of a pulsing effect. It's almost like a breathing organism. You have an inhale and an exhale. Every now and then a flash of lightning here or there. We do have a light that keeps on flashing back and forth. That is not the lightning. If we did have any lightning, we'd be seeking cover. By the way, Jim Cantori and Stephanie are seeking cover at this point. It's all about safety at the Weather Channel. And the key takeaway, if you've been watching their incredible narrative this evening about what has been coming from Hurricane Laura, they are experiencing parts of the eye wall, the ferocity of it. Mark, I got to tell you one thing at Stephanie, gosh almighty, when she was inside the building, you could hear that piercing wail.
Yeah.
That was the voice of Hurricane Laura. I mean, what an eerie thing to consider. Mark, can you please, for the sake of our viewers who may be tuning in across much of the region, I'm sure there may be some confusion because you got a lot of folks that are moving here. They may not be so weather savvy when it comes to the tropics. Landfalling system, but a tornado threat.
Absolutely.
Can you share that with them?
Yeah, that is very common with landfalling tropical systems. Because of how the winds change with height, you get enough spin through the atmosphere that we do have a tornado threat. And that's largely featured in these outer rings. And we'll get to that in just a second because we do have some tornado warnings popping up off to the east. What I want to talk to you about first is this presentation on the infrared satellite. This is a very well-formed storm, maybe a little bit of a wiggle off to the west. What that could mean for those of you watching in Lake Charles is that even as we may get into part of the eye and get a brief calm, don't go outside. Don't expect this to be a long duration break, as you may very quickly wind up on the eastern side of the eye and wind up in that eastern eye wall. Now, this is a view of the radar, but the radar is actually coming all the way from Houston. Both the Lake Charles and the Fort Polk radars are not currently operable. Maybe a communication issue from the Lake Charles office, which, remember, if you were watching earlier today, that office was left because it was not safe. And so to continue that, Reynolds, there is a tornado warning off to the east. Tornado warning continues for Iberia, Lafayette, and St. Martin until 2:15. Fast-moving spin-up tornadoes, very common in these landfalling systems.
Hey, Mark, another question for you. Right now, we've been talking so much what happened down in places like Cameron as it made its way into Lake Charles. Right now, we've been talking so much about Lake Charles, understandably so. But can you tell our viewers what they can expect farther upstream? Because we know the story is not stopping there. We're going to follow this for days to come. Upstream, places like DeRidder, spots like, say, Shreveport. When do you think we can expect as we make our way forward in the next several hours?
All right, so right now, it's all about Lake Charles because that eye wall is approaching. But it's not going to stay there, right? This is not just an event that stays at the coast and ends. This is going to be hurricane force winds that goes much further inland, approaching the western towns west of Alexandria by morning. It's going to take the next several hours to go from Lake Charles to somewhere west of Alexandria. Now, this is just one model. I'm using it to give you the flavor, what to expect with these winds. And you can see the wind scale up here, that there could still be 85 to 95 plus gusts associated with this storm. Okay, these are significant wind gusts. Now, a little bit more wiggle room as we look towards this time frame towards tomorrow afternoon. There are some models that bring this center very close to Shreveport, others that are basically near Monroe. This one, we're splitting the difference. We're going in between. But look at that, Reynolds, this is 85-mile-per-hour gusts around that eye still by noon tomorrow, and then we go all the way to Little Rock, Reynolds, by the time we get into tomorrow night. Gosh, this is going to be a long-duration event. There could be wind damage all the way through Arkansas with this, easily through the day tomorrow.
Hey, we're going to commercial break real fast. I want to ask you one more question. For the benefit of our viewers that may be tuning in from the Northeast and the Ohio Valley, they may see this and say, oh, this is a world away. This could be going into parts of, say, the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Let's take a look at the official forecast track as issued by the National Hurricane Center. This is our latest track as issued by our friends down at the center. We're talking about winds that do spin down at least briefly, but you see this big curl on off towards the north. and north and east. This is meeting up with a cold front. This front is going to be sweeping what's left of Laura off the coast and away. But at that same point, high pressure starts to build in. And so you have the low from the remnants from our storm and high pressure to the north. High pressure going this way, low pressure going this way. Gosh, we could have an onshore flow, a squeeze play, a very strong wind event into portions of the mid-Atlantic and the northeast. So do not put your guard down on this system. Do not turn your back on Laura is the bottom line here, as we could have very strong winds going all the way across the Appalachian chain and Reynolds into the mid-Atlantic and the northeast through this weekend.
Unbelievable, Mark. There's so many moving parts of this as this pinwheel of destruction continues to march its way to the north onshore, and still the story's got a long way from finishing. Let's go right now, we can, to a live image. I want you to listen in. This from our friend station, KPRC. I want you to listen to, we just missed it. Sorry, folks. Technology does happen. Folks, we've got more information coming up for you. The wind beginning to pick up here in Beaumont, and you know what? There's nothing here to stop it. We're going to see it pick up a bit more. More power outages expected. You're watching the Weather Channel. Folks, be safe. More coverage after this.
This is our latest track is issued by our friends down at the center. We're talking about winds that do